All right. Welcome back to the live show. You know what time it is. It is currently 12:27 a.m. And of course, today's date is the 13th of June 2025. Yes, summer is almost upon us, even if it's here, literally. Now, with that being said, everybody's asking what is going on across the United States right now. But the fact is, Americans voted for this. We voted for mass deportation. No, I get it. I get it. It's not sweet to hear people say mass deportation, but as an immigrant who came into the United States legally, yes, we support mass deportation because if you came to the United States illegally, then whatever you see, you get. All right. Now, the OG, the 45th, now the 47th president of the United States, President Trump, absolutely is doing what the people voted for. This is what the people voted for 1000%. 1000%. This is what we voted for. All right. And everything happening, which is the distraction, the rioting, the looting, the 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 the, the wild chaos going on in these states like Illinois, California, now Texas. However, the governor has said, F around and find out. Mm-hmm. F around and find out. So, with that being said, yes, we voted for law and order. Shout out to C. Shelley. You know what time it is. Shout out to C. Shelley. Okay. Thank you, C. Shelley. Thank you for tuning in. All right. The OG participated in bill signing ceremony today, and we're gonna check that out. We're gonna check that out right now. And yes, we are going to enjoy the show. All right, here we go.
Well, thank you very much. I just said to Mike, this is fantastic. I didn't think we were going to see this coming for a while. Congratulations. This is a very, very important thing. Thank you very much, everybody. This is a very important thing we're going to be discussing. Please sit down. Thank you very much. This is good news indeed. People said it couldn't be done. You got it done. I just have to sign, right? That's very good. This is really something. And it has to do with the California Auto Regulation, CRA. It's been a disaster for this country. And I want to thank everybody for being here. We officially rescue the U.S. auto industry from destruction by terminating the California electric vehicle mandate once and for all. They said it couldn't be done, but boy, it's had us tied up in knots for years. And they'd pass these crazy rules in California, and it would be 17 states would go by them. The automakers didn't know what to do because they're really building cars for two countries. When you have 17 states, you're building cars for two countries. And I want to congratulate you all, the Senate, the House, the whole thing. It's incredible. I was going to sign a executive order and give it a shot. But the one good thing with this, number one, it holds up forever. And number two, unless somebody votes it out, they'll never do that. And it's just so much better, huh? It's so much better. That's so great. Very proud of you. We're joined today by the great Speaker of the House. I think he's going to go down as a great Speaker of the House, too. I may be wrong. I may be wrong. Who knows? Who the hell knows? I think he is. And he's doing something. The only thing I would say is more important than this one, and I'll tell you what, it's almost close. That's how big this is today. But the great, big, beautiful, I added the word great, I used the word. The great, big, beautiful bill, it's going to be one of the most, I said it this morning to a group, I think it's one of the most important pieces of legislation ever signed, ever approved. So it's going to be something very special. Thank you very much. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, thank you. Secretary Sean Duffy, and they had a problem in India today, and you're on that. Sean's doing a tremendous job. Secretary Chris Wright, everybody said you'd never be able to get him. He's the most talented man, they say, in the oil and gas industry. I'll let you know in about 2 years if that's true. Well, Doug Burgum, I wanted Doug Burgum to head up energy because he was so successful in North Dakota. He's governor. And he said, sir, there's one person who's much better than me. I said, who? They said, Chris Wright. I said, who the hell is Chris Wright? I had no idea. Now everyone knows Chris Wright. He's going to be more famous than me. But he said, there's a guy named Chris Wright, and if we could get him, he'd be better than I am, sir. And if you know Doug, Doug's not here, is he? If you knew Doug, he's always working someplace. But if you knew Doug, you'd know that he doesn't say that often. And he did. And Chris, you're doing great. But I don't like the oil prices have gone up just a little bit over the last few days. I was going to call it just really start screaming at you. Are we okay? Nothing wrong, right? It's going to keep going down a little bit, right? Because we have inflation under control perfectly. You probably saw the records. Everyone's on television saying, what's going on here? Trump has proven to be right. All of these things. We've taken in $88 billion in tariffs in 2 months. $88 billion with no inflation. And if we're smart, there won't be. Now, we'd like to get this guy to lower interest rates because, if he doesn't, we have to pay. We have a lot of short-term debt. Obama gave it to us originally, and Biden carried it on. They like short-term. I like long-term cheap debt. But a lot of the debt comes through because Biden, he didn't do it. I'm sure he didn't know anything about it. But somebody approved short-term debt. It's all over the place. And it comes due starting very soon. And if we would lower the interest rates by 1 point, we'd pay about 1 point less. That's $300 billion a year. Can you believe it? 1 point. If he'd lower it by 2 points, we'd pay $600 billion a year less. That's for years, 10 years, 12 years, whatever we make it. But we can't get this guy to do it. And the fake news is saying, if you fired him, it would be so bad. It would be so bad. I don't know why it would be so bad, but I'm not going to fire him. I just want him to, we call him Too Late, right? Too Late is his nickname, like Too Tall Jones. He was too tall, T-O-O. And I just say this because we want to get rid of inflation, and we have. But we're going to be paying more for debt. And all he has to do is lower it. Europe's done 10 lowerings. We've done none. And nobody understands it. Actually, today when the numbers came out, they were so good. You saw yesterday's numbers, incredible. No inflation. Today's numbers. Today just came out, same thing, no inflation. They're all shocked. All these guys are watching from business, CNBC, and all of these different networks. Maria Bartiromo actually got it right. She's been getting it right for a long time, that one. I hope she's appreciated. And Joe Kiernan's been very good at CNBC, I must tell you, but other people aren't so good. But I will say that they can't believe what's happening. But if I could, because we can discuss, we get a lot of press, we get a lot of cameras rolling right now. Not that I like doing it, because I don't. But if we cut our interest by 1 point, for years, we save $300 billion. If we cut it by 2 points, we save, because it's pretty equivalent. We're going to spend $600 billion a year, $600 billion, because of one numbskull that sits here. I don't see enough reason to cut the rates now. And the problem he's got is that, and I explained to him, look, if inflation went up, cut your rates now. There's no inflation. We got it down. We got prices down. We got gasoline down. And you'll keep it going down. But gasoline's down. We drill, it's drill, baby, drill. That's why it's going down. But we're all that. But think of it. I said to him, he was in my office a couple of days ago. I said, if you think there's inflation, let's find out. Because I think we're going to keep it down. I think gasoline's going to be so far down. Oil, energy, it's so much energy. We have so much energy, we don't know what to do with it. But let's say there was inflation in a year from now. Raise your rates. I don't mind. Raise your rates. I'm all for it. I'll be calling you. He'll be too late for that too. But raise your rates. You don't have to keep them up here. If it's going to go up, I'm okay with you raising, but it's down. And we're going out to financing. And I may have to force something. Somebody said, who's the genius that thought of that? I said, it's me. Unlike Biden, I stay awake at night thinking about how to save our country. He was much better at sleeping than me. He could sleep on a beach. He could sleep on a beach with cameras rolling. I can't do that. But I had an idea. I gave it. They said, we'll go short term for a year. Let this guy get out of office. Somebody will come in, cut it a couple of points, and we'll save ourselves $7, $8, maybe even $900 billion a year. What is he doing? Why doesn't he lower these rates? And with that, we'll get on to the California standard, which is a disaster, okay? So, Chris Wright, you're going to get the numbers down. Thank you very much. Lee Zeldin, one of the most important men in this room. He's the man. I get nervous when I talk to him. He's doing a great job. Nuclear, I say, okay, you can take 2 weeks for that approval. It used to take 20 years, then they wouldn't approve it. Now I say, Lee, nuclear, I'll give you 2 weeks for an approval. A coal-fired plant, you only get a couple of days. And oil and gas will give you a week, okay? Something like that. But he's doing it so fast, and we have so many plants being built right now. It's so beautiful to see. And one of the reasons they're coming here is because they have to produce tremendous, especially the AI, they have to produce beyond believable amounts of electricity. And they're doing, I said to them, I think this was more or less my idea. They didn't have the idea only because they didn't think a thing like this was possible. I said, as you build your plant, you're going to become a utility. And you're going to build a separate plant right alongside of it. You're going to build it. You're going to build a plant that produces electricity. And you'll produce it through natural gas, coal, nuclear. We don't want to produce it through wind because we don't feel like ruining 50 miles of beautiful plains and beautiful vistas. And but we want to produce it. Interestingly, China is opening up a coal plant every single week. But now I'm finding out it might be 2 plants every single week. And, usually that's a good gauge. If they're using coal, I guess we're supposed to use coal. And, we went to a coal standard. And not that you have to use coal. You're going to use whatever's best. I want to introduce also Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso, who's a tremendous guy, doctor. Okay? And he is a tremendous guy, tremendously talented doctor. When I have a medical situation for the country, for myself, I haven't used him, but I might have to. Maybe I'll do that. If it's serious enough, I think I'd probably do that. But he's a tremendously talented gentleman who happens to be a senator and one that's very respected. Chairwoman Shelley Moore Capito, and congratulations. I just endorsed your son. Did you know that? I endorsed your son. I endorsed your son, who's running in West Virginia, and he's great. In fact, he's all Trump all the time. I think much more so than you, actually. If you want. You were his largest impediment. No, I'm only kidding. He's all Trump all the time, and he's going to win big, and so congratulate him. Okay, he's really been fantastic. So many people have told me. Thank you. And House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, who's a brave man. He went through hell. Steve went through hell. And we have a lot of other people here that I won't be able to because they don't have your name down, and I'm looking and I see people's names. I'll do a couple of you, but thanks as well to Mark Wayne Mullen, Senator. Mark Wayne, thank you. Stand up, Mark Wayne. Don't fight him. He's a serious fighter in a lot of ways, and he's a great guy, too. Thank you, Mark Wayne. Deb Fisher. Deb? Thank you, Deb. Good. Pete Ricketts, who's going to do very well in the upcoming election. Thank you. Thank you, Pete. John Husted, who's really moving along in Ohio. John, good luck. You're going to do well. All endorsed people. John Curtis, who's doing terrifically. John, thank you. Good job. They all say excellent. What can I tell you? Good job. And Bernie Moreno, who won a race that was not winnable. They all said it's not winnable. He won in Ohio. They said, you can't win that race. It's a waste of time. You're just wasting your time. Right, Bernie? Wasn't a waste of time, was it? Huh? And he won by like 5 points, too. Won by a lot. Along with Representatives Kevin Kiley, Vince Fong, Jay Obernolte, Doug LaMalfa, Daryl Issa. Where's Daryl? I haven't seen you in such a long time. Look at you. How good you look, huh? Good when you have those big margins. It's easier. John Joyce, great guy. John, thank you. Thank you, John. Dusty Johnson, Morgan Griffith, Troy Balderson, Troy from a place called Ohio, and he played very cute at one time, but then he got, boy, I'll tell you, he's become a good politician. Where is Troy now? Where I haven't seen him used for years. I endorsed you early when he was early and younger, but you still look young, and you've done fantastically good. Good work, really good work. Claudia Tenney, New York. Claudia, thank you, Claudia. John James, John James. I don't know. You know, he's running for governor, but I'm not sure I'm happy about that, John. Do we have somebody good to take your seat? Because otherwise we're not letting him run for governor. We can't. You have somebody good, right? Okay. As long as you like him, they'll win. Tracy Mann. Tracy, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Michael Baumgartner. Michael. Thank you, Michael. Good. Good job. David Rouser. Rouser. Thank you. Glenn Grothman. Hi, Glenn. Thank you very much, Glenn. Brett Guthrie. Brett. Thank you, Brett. Rudy Yackham. Thank you. Thank you, Rudy. And I want to thank you all. And there's some additional people in the room, but we have to get back to this. This is like so big. This is a big one. Under the previous administration, the previous administration, I could go point after point, everything they did, open borders, men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody, let's go transgender. What a group of people you had over there. They must have hated our country. Under the previous administration, the federal government gave left-wing radicals in California dictatorial powers to control the future of the entire car industry all over the country, all over the world, actually. Because they have to build a car. They can't build 19 different cars called the same thing. And really, it was all over the world what was happening. They approved Governor Gavin Newsom's ridiculous plan to impose a 100% ban on all new gas-powered cars within a very short period of time. Think of this. You couldn't buy any other car except an electric-powered car. And in California, they have blackouts and brownouts. They don't have enough electricity right now to do the job. And countrywide, you'd have to spend $4 trillion to build the firing plants, to be able to, they call them a lot of things, charging plants, firing plants. $4 trillion you'd have to spend. In the Midwest, they built 9 of them. 9 individual, it's like a pump, just like a pump, except instead of gas, electricity comes out. They spent Actually, they built 8 of them. $9 billion they spent for 8. 8 little hoses, $9 billion. Now, I'm sure they could have done it for about, 1/1000th of that, but even if they did, it's unaffordable. They approved Governor Gavin's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. By the way, if I didn't bring the military in, Los Angeles would be burning down right now. It'd be burning just like his damn houses burned down because he didn't have the water that he should have had. He had so much water. They have so much water. We had to send in the military to free up the water. And we did that right after the fires. We told them to do it in the first term. But just like that ridiculous plan, this is a plan to think of it, a plan to ban 100, and they call it the 100% ban on all new gas-powered cars and abolish 75% of the gas-powered trucks. 75%. The trucking industry saw me. They said, sir, it doesn't work. Number one, the trucks are so heavy. They're 2.5 times heavier than a diesel-powered truck. So one of the big truckers owns 28,000 trucks, big company, tremendous company. He said, I go out of business immediately. I'm not going to play games. He said, did you explain these things to the government officials? Like the truck weighs 2.5 times more than a regular truck, a gasoline-powered diesel. And he said, based on that, we have to rebuild every bridge in the United States of America because it wasn't designed to hold cars and trucks that heavy because the batteries are very heavy. They're, probably lead. But they have a lot of things in those batteries that weigh a lot. But it's 2.5 times. It's a simple number, 2.5 times. And if you want to do this, you have to spend trillions and trillions of dollars on rebuilding every bridge in the United States, and I guess throughout the world, because they do follow us. And the big rig buses and even cement trucks, they want to abolish certain categories of truck, but they want to go 75% of all of these trucks have to be abolished almost immediately. The time is just crazy. And they don't go far. Another little problem. With a tank of diesel, you can go from New York to Los Angeles if you want to go to Los Angeles right now. But New York to Los Angeles, and you can go back a little bit. With the electric truck, you'll stop approximately 6 times. Enjoy your stop. And the truckers saw me, and I said, did you just explain this? Because this is like, if you explain it, if a person's reasonable for that, he said, we explained it, they didn't care. They said, we're going all electric. They can't be stupid because anybody that can cheat on elections like them is not a stupid person. But they must hate our country. But I said to this big trucker, he said, sir, I've been buying trucks my whole damn life. He's a rough guy, smart guy. He said, I got thousands of them. I've been buying them for 50 years. And every single year they got better. They got more efficient, they got bigger, they got stronger. I build apartments in my trucks now for the drivers. I said, what's an apartment? That's on the cab. They put this in. And sir, I know you like luxury, but you wouldn't mind living in one of these. I said, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. It doesn't sound too appealing, but I said, so what's the problem? He said, so I noticed one thing. For 50 years, every single year, one thing happened. They got better. They got stronger. They got more efficient. They got faster. They could carry any load. If we went to this standard, we'd go back beyond 50 years. They wouldn't go as far as a truck from 50 years ago. It would be too heavy and have all the other problems. He said, we'd be going backwards. We'd be taking a trucking industry, would be starting all over. But actually, it would be worse because it was better 50 years ago than. So I said, what are you going to do if I don't win this election? This was before the election. He said, you don't win the election, I'm going to close up my business because I'm not going to lose he said, I'm not going to lose my ass. I know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be a catastrophe. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard. They're making you buy stuff that doesn't work. It's no good. It doesn't work. And I'm all for electric. If you want to buy electric, you can buy electric. Cars are great. If you buy the right ones, cars are great. And you should be given the option, buy the electric car, buy a gasoline-powered car, buy a hybrid. Probably not hydrogen, because hydrogen has a tendency that when it blows up, you're gonzo. It's over. They find you 75 yards down the road, you know. Where is he? Well, I think that's him, but I'm not sure. So, you know, they said, we think we can solve the problem. I said, that's not good enough when they think. No, it sounds like it's quite severe. If it doesn't work, Steve, it'll work most of the time, but if it doesn't, it's over. It'll make your accident look like peanuts compared. You wouldn't be around, I'll tell you, because it's pretty bad. But some people like it. I don't know. Let's see what happens. But I would say it's off to a bad start. But because of the size of California's population and the fact that 17 other states follow California, that's the problem. 17 other states follow California. They have the most ridiculous laws I've ever seen for a lot of things. This is just cars, and trucks and they have a lot of them for other things. But we have, it's called the California Car Standards. And this horrible scheme would effectively abolish the internal combustion engine, which most people prefer. Like so far, I'd say about 90%. In fact, General Motors announced yesterday they're going to spend about $6 billion because of tariffs, and maybe because of my election on November 5th. But because of tariffs, I think, more than anything. They're all coming back. They're coming back from other countries that took them 25, 30 years ago. They're all coming back. We have now almost $15 trillion. They had almost nothing last year, and the year before, they've very, very little. Nobody wanted to be back here. Nobody wanted to come to our country anymore because we were like stupid people. We looked like stupid people. We were laughed at all over the world. Now we're not laughed at anymore, I can tell you that. But they wanted to shatter our domestic supply chains and literally grind civilization to a halt. We would have gone so far back. It's hard to believe, actually. Hard to believe when you don't have enough electricity to give a person a little air conditioning in the summer, and now they want you to take electricity and fire up all these cars. But we're not going to let that happen. Meanwhile, all of the auto jobs would be shipped to China because they're very strong on electric, and it lives off an estimated 200,000 American auto workers would be destroyed. It's one of the reasons I did so well with the United Auto Workers, and now I'm really doing well with them. I did phenomenally with them. No Republican ever got any numbers like I got. In the Teamsters too. Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters, these guys, they like Trump because I produce jobs. They know that. Everybody knew that, the auto workers knew better than anybody how good the tariffs were. And the head of the auto breakers, I don't know him at all, but he didn't like me at all. Now he's going around saying, this guy's unbelievable. He was very nice to me the last few months. During the campaign, no, but if I've proven, I've proven it. I've done what I said I was going to do, and we've brought back tremendous numbers of jobs. And you're having auto plants built all over the country, all over. There's never seen anything like that. They're leaving from Mexico. They're leaving from Canada. They're leaving from other parts of the world. If they want a Mercedes-Benz, you're going to have it made here. It's okay to have a Mercedes, but they're going to make it here. Otherwise, they're going to pay a very big tariff. They already are. That's one of the reasons we have $88 billion. It's a lot of money. But that's peanuts compared to what we're going to be making in another few months. They haven't even kicked in yet. But we're not going to let any of these bad things happen, these stupid projections that I've been reading about for the last 6 months. I think these people are either corrupt or really dumb. And they're supposed to be economists. In the campaign, I promised to end this disaster, and today our Republican majorities in Congress have delivered. And I don't know, I can't imagine. It's so obvious. It's so good. Did we get any Democrat votes? Did we get one? Two? Who? 35. Yes, sir. I think that's great. I think that's great. You got 35 Democrats. 35, yes, sir. I think that's great. That, as far as I'm concerned, one in the Senate. On something that's so good. But who is the one? Well, I shouldn't have asked. I congratulate her. I don't care. I think it's great. It's very interesting. Why did I ask that question, Mr. Speaker? But in a few moments, I'll sign 3 pieces of legislation that will kill, totally kill. You can't do anything about it. They can't take us to court. They can't do any of the things they can do with the executive orders. And it's permanent. I'll sign 3 pieces of legislation that will kill the California mandates forever, and they're never coming back. Now, the auto companies are the most happy because now they're going to be designing and building one auto. It will be much cheaper. It's a much less expensive. They were showing me, one of the most respected people was showing me that to save a little, like a half a glass of fuel, cost them thousands of dollars with new computers and stop it. The engine has to stop and then turn on and blah, blah, blah. And I said, does it work as well? No, it's terrible. It's terrible. And that's to save a little bit of fuel, this much fuel that Chris Wright can produce with one extra little oil well someplace, right? One little, a small one, a very small one. But think of it. Your cars are going to cost you $3,000, $4,000 less, and you're going to have what you want. And again, you can get any car you want. You can get electric. A lot of people love the electric. They like Tesla. So do I, in all fairness. I like Tesla. And I like others too. But I also like combustion engines. And there are reasons for a lot of things. When I was in Iowa, we had an unbelievable victory, if you remember. Remember? That was nice. You won by like so much. Nobody even talked about anything else, but that was a great victory. But it was unbelievably cold that night, and I was going to watch my victory in the area where I was going to make a speech, and the whole place was littered with cars. I said, what happened? They were electric cars, and they don't work in cold. I said, I didn't know that. And they don't work in extreme heat either. Other than that, they're wonderful. But if you're in a cold climate, how do you do that? But they're electric cars, and I noticed that, and then I didn't pay much attention because we won by about 65 points, so I was more interested in that. But I do remember that scene. I said, what the hell is going on over here? This historic action will also help us reduce inflation and bring down the price of automobiles and electricity very, very substantially. We're building massive electricity right now. It's already started because of that guy right there, Lee Zeldin. By far the most important man in the room, Mr. Speaker. Stand up, Lee. He blows you guys away, John. He blows the politicians away. I'm sorry right now. He's a great politician. He almost won for governor in New York, which is just missed by a few points. And that was another race that was not winnable, but you almost got it. But I think what you're doing now is even bigger if you want to know the truth. I think it's actually more important if you can believe that. Under the previous regime, car prices skyrocketed as a direct result of the mandates. These mandates, this nonsense that you had to do. And they had so many other rules and regulations that the car companies who are here today appreciate that. And Susie Wiles is here today. Stand up, Susie. Most incredible woman. Most powerful woman in the world, they say. She's the most powerful. She was rated the most powerful woman in the world. Susie Wiles. One phone call and a nation is destroyed. She could destroy 5 nations with 5 calls, and she's doing a great job. More importantly, right? Doing a great job. Nobody like. Energy prices would likewise soar as the radical left forced more electric vehicles onto the grid while blocking approvals for new power plants. They want to block the approvals. They want you to have a car with electric, but they block the production of the juice that runs the cars, and all of them, all forms of cars. It's just the craziest thing. We're in a different sphere now. We're in a whole different planet right now. The result would be rolling blackouts and a collapse of our power systems, we'd have a total collapse. You couldn't do it. You couldn't even do it. Think of it, they're forcing you to do something, and they want you to do boats also. I assume boats are being covered by this, and boats, they want you to go all electric, and the batteries are so heavy, the damn boat practically doesn't float. I used to have a lot of fun talking about that one on the tours. We'd talk about it. And I said, what would happen if the boat sank? Because we went to North Carolina, South Carolina, we visited boat factories, unbelievable guys. And they said, sir, we have one problem. They're forcing us to go electric for the boat. I said, how's it going to work? The boat will not float, sir. It's so heavy. And it won't go fast, and lots of other. And I did ask him a question, because I have a lot of background. My uncle was a big shot at MIT, the smartest guy. He never had a smarter guy. And I guess I have a little of that. My first question was, what would happen if the boat sank? Do you get electrocuted? Remember I said that? And I used to be decimated by these people back here, right? I used to be decimated. They'd say, what kind of a crazy question is that? So I'm actually serious. What happens if you're an electric boat and the boat is going down? You're in trouble, Susie. And I used to say, remember, oh, I'd get decimated. The audience loved it, but the press would laugh at it. I said, so if I have my choice of going down or jumping 5 or 6 yards away from the boat, but there's a shark there, what do I do? You know what I said? I'd rather be electrocuted. I said, I'll take electrocution every single day. But actually, he said, nobody's ever asked me that question, sir. He makes boats. Nobody ever asked me that question. This is really an unusual question. He said, and honestly, I don't have the answer. He wasn't able to. I said, don't worry about it. If I win, you won't have to worry about it. But today we're saving California, and we're saving our entire country from a disaster. Your cars are going to be thousands of dollars less money. And even the ones that, if you buy electric, we're not going to make you do certain things that are just a waste of money and just time-consuming waste of money. They make you do things that are no good for anybody, make the car worse, and make it much more expensive. Over the past 5 months, our administration and Republicans in Congress have fought for the American auto worker and for Teamsters and for, by the way, right to work. We have them all. We have, we just call them just workers. We fought for workers like no one has ever fought before. I understand that. It's why we won. We won with workers. We won with young people. I just saw with TikTok, I was #1 on TikTok in its history. Can you believe that? So I guess I like TikTok. That's why they're saying, are you saving? And we probably will save TikTok, actually. But on my first day in office, I ended the Green New Scam and abolished the EV mandate at the federal level. We abolished it, which is basically that everybody will be driving an electric car within a very short period of time. Now I know why Elon doesn't like me so much, which he does, actually. He does. And he never had a problem. It's very interesting. This is not something new. This has been there from day one, Speaker, right? We're going to abolish the EV mandate. And Elon still endorsed me because, honestly, he never, ever spoke to me about that. And I used to say, I'm amazed that he's endorsing me because that can't be good for him. I'm abolishing the EV mandate. And I once asked him about it. You never talked to me about that. He said, well, as long as it's happening to everybody, I'll be able to compete. It was a very interesting answer. I thought it was a very honest answer, to be honest with you. And I talked about it, that incredible, you would have thought he would have been, from day one, you got to make sure you don't do the EV mandate, the abolishing, and never did. Very honest in that sense. And he did say to me, I actually asked him because it was like really strange how I'm with him. He's very, a friend of mine, and he makes electric cars, and we're saying you're not going to be able to make electric cars, or you're not going to be forced to make all of those cars. You can make them, but it'll be by the market, judged by the market. And that's what he said. He said, as long as I'm on the same plane as everybody else, we're going to do good. We make a better product. I said, that's very cool. It's very cool. That was my answer. After that, he got a little bit strange, but I don't know why, over much smaller things than that. As part of the One Big Beautiful Bill, we'll also further slash the funding for the Green New Scam. As you know, it's the greatest scam in history, saving American taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars. The windmills are killing our country, by the way. The fields are littered with them, junk. They're littered with them. And they get older, and they get rusty, and they get bad, and they get... This is other countries also. It's the greatest scam in history. It's the most expensive energy you can buy. They're ugly. A friend of mine comes from Minnesota. He's been in New York. He hit it big. He's a very successful guy, actually. And he wanted to go back, see his mother who's not well. And he went back to Minnesota. Hasn't been back there in 20 years. And he said, it's unbelievable what happened. He said, I'm driving down a highway and up a certain road and the most beautiful fields. I remember them so well. And I was so looking forward to seeing them again. And I looked at them, and they had windmills all over them, these horrible, horrible structures. He's a very smart guy, this guy. He said, these ugly, horrible things. And he said, it was so bad, I actually drove back to see it because I couldn't believe it. Before I even got to my mother, I drove back. I said, how much do you like your mother? But no, it hurt him to see it. He said, I looked at this field that was one of the most beautiful places in my own mind and imagination that I've ever seen. And I said, it's littered with this garbage. It looked like a junkyard, he said. And some, then you get different manufacturers, and they don't look alike, and they're not painted alike, different colors. You have, even if they're white, one's a beigey white, one's a darker white, one's a lighter white. And then they start to rust after 4 or 5 years. And then they start to wear out, and nobody takes them because you're not allowed to bury the propellers, the props, right? You can't bury the props for some reason. I don't know why, but they say that you can't bury a certain type of fiber, and if it goes in the ground, we're all going to die. It's what bullshit this is, okay? They can't bury. So what they do is they leave them up. If you go to Palm Springs, California, take a look. You go into this beautiful community. Before you go, it's like you're riding through a junkyard. Windmills all over the place. Tall ones, short ones, dead ones. They're all dead. Some are hanging over by a thread. They never take them down. They just leave them there, and they start to rust. It's one of the greatest scams, and it's also the most expensive energy. And the environmentalists say, oh, we love wind. It sounds so good, but it's a horrible thing. Environmentally, it's a horrible thing. I say that to you. It's wind, and we are going to have virtually one mandate we have. We're going to natural gas, nuclear. Nuclear, we just had a big signing with nuclear, making it easier, safer and better. It's really, I would say, probably more than any other form of energy that's come about. It's been amazing what's been done. It's very safe, very good, and very inexpensive. But we're not going to let windmills get built because we're not going to destroy our country any further than it's already been destroyed. You go and look at these beautiful plains and valleys, and they're loaded up with this garbage that gets worse and worse looking with time. Starts when the rust comes. 4.5 years, it starts to rust. And it's very expensive to paint them. So they don't paint them, and they're horrible. What's happened is horrible. So we're not going to approve windmills unless something happens that's an emergency. I guess it could happen. But we're not doing any of them. I hope the Senate will soon pass a bill the House can quickly approve and get to my desk by the 4th of July. We'll have this done. And to further defend our auto workers, I imposed a 25% tariff on all foreign automobiles. Investment in American auto manufacturing is surging because of it. They have Mercedes all over. They pay 25% if they don't make the car in the United States. And because of that, and this could have been done long before Trump. This could have been done by any one of the presidents. I did it with China. The reason you don't have Chinese cars here is because I imposed it my last term. I actually asked the question. I said, do we have any Chinese cars here? No. Why? Because you imposed a 25 or 27.5% tariff on Chinese cars. So they're not coming here, but they are going to Europe all over the place. But I love China. We just made a deal, and I respect President Xi a lot. And we made a deal that's good for both countries. The deal we made with China, good for both countries. Going to be a lot of money made, and it's going to ultimately open up China, which is the ultimate thing. And I'm going to be working with President Xi. We had a long talk about it. And that's going to be good for China. It's going to be good for us. But we're going to be opening up China. That's bigger than what we signed. And I think had we not signed it, that wouldn't be happening. It's going to happen. It's going to happen fairly soon. But to further defend our auto workers, I imposed this 25% tariff on all foreign automobiles and investment in American manufacturing and auto manufacturing. All manufacturing is surging. And I might go up with that tariff in the not too distant future. The higher you go, the more likely it is they build a plant here. Ford has just announced that it's going to invest $500 million in some of the things involved in what we just did. General Motors is going to spend $4 billion. They just announced that yesterday. Stellantis announced that it's going to reopen its Belvidere assembly plant. That's good. I know the plant very well. Had a lot of problems. They're going to spend $5 billion. And Hyundai announced that it will invest $21 billion in America. They wouldn't have invested 10 cents if we didn't have tariffs, including for manufacturing American steel, which is doing great. American steel is doing great now because of what we did. You wouldn't have, if I didn't put tariffs on steel, they were dumping steel. China and a lot of other countries were dumping steel in our country. Garbage steel, dirty steel, bad steel, not structurally sound steel, real garbage, but it was still there, lots of it. And if I didn't put tariffs, I put 25 and 50% tariffs on steel, right? John James would put tariffs on steel, and we were doing great with steel. Now we're really doing great. A big investment's being made in Pennsylvania. You've been reading about it. They're going to spend $17 billion on U.S. steel. And all the steel workers wanted it. And we have a golden stock. We have a golden share, which I control or president controls. Now, I'm a little concerned whoever the president might be, but that gives you total control. It's 51% ownership by Americans. And we have a company, a great company, Nippon. They're coming in from Japan. They're going to spend $17 billion. And somebody said, well, what happens if it doesn't work out? I said, they spent $17 billion. We can't put it on a trailer and drive it to Japan. This is a steel mill. You know, some businesses you can move. You move your office, and that's where the business is. With this business, they're spending think of that, $17 billion. They're going to have them all over the country. I want to introduce several of the great Americans representing the millions of people whose livelihoods we're saving with today's action. I just can't tell you how incredible this action is, because nobody thought. This was one that I wasn't so, I would have rather had it than almost anything, but I was told by everybody, except that guy right there, that you couldn't get it. Bill Kent runs a chain of family-owned convenience stores that opened in West Texas in 1957, known as Kent Quick. And Bill, if you could come up and say a few words about what the signing means to you, please.
Wow, you're probably wondering why I've called you all here today, right? What a great day. From my perspective, I'm in the convenience store and petroleum marketing business, and what this does is it gives us freedom. It gives the consumers freedom to pick what kind of car they want, but more importantly for us, it gives us the ability to plan going forward, because with mandates, we were forced to have to look at putting in infrastructure that frankly is extremely expensive and doesn't give you any return. So this allows us, it's going to free me up and our companies up to invest in what people want, in the cars they want, and it's a great day. So, Mr. President, Congress, thank you, Steve, everybody, thank you so much. Thank you.
And a friend of mine for a long time is John Hess. He's one of the top CEOs in the country, and he's now the CEO of Hess Corporation, one of the biggest oil producers, and he's a fantastic person with great knowledge of the subject matter. Can you say a few words, John? I see you in the audience. Come on, thanks.
Hi, I'm John Hess, and CEO of Hess Corporation, a proud producer of oil and gas in North Dakota and the Gulf of America. And so you all know, I was born in New Jersey, grew up in New York, and my father started our company by driving a secondhand oil truck. So, Mr. President, it's an honor to be before you today, and thank you for that. Mr. President, during your campaign, you made a commitment to the American people to repeal unworkable and costly mandates for cars and trucks and let the consumer choose what type of vehicle they drive. Today, with the bipartisan support of Congress, you're making good on that promise. I'd like to recognize Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune, other members of Congress whose tireless efforts were critical to the outcome we're celebrating today. And a special thank you to Senator Capito for her leadership. This announcement today is about consumer choice and affordability for American families. It's also about making our country auto industry more competitive, Mr. President, and you said that very eloquently. As you know, Mr. President, one-size-fits-all policies like those adopted in California do not work. America, in every state, every American should be able to choose what they want to drive, not the government. We as a country would be basically leaning into our competitive advantage with this repeal on oil and gas. Oil and gas are a strategic industry for our country, underpinning energy dominance, economic prosperity, and national security. We are truly energy independent. So, Mr. President, on behalf of Hess Corporation, on behalf of the oil and gas industry, and every family across our country, thank you for your courageous leadership and your commitment to consumer choice and energy affordability. Thank you very much.
Very respected guy. The California EV mandates would also have devastated our nation's incredible truck drivers and the trucking industry, and I gave you a little bit of a rundown on that. But a diesel-powered semi-truck can drive from Reno, Nevada, I'll give you some other locations, Nevada to Los Angeles, California, and back on a single tank of diesel oil, diesel fuel, but the same exact journey would require an electric truck driver to stop also 6 times at recharging stations, adding an estimated 9 hours to the trip. I don't know too much about the trucking industry, but this is not sounding good. Here to discuss a little bit about the trucking industry, Gina Jones. And Gina, a real expert on trucks, I can tell you that. She's going to come up and tell us about trucks. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, members and Congress. The trucking industry has America's back, and we are grateful that a president and the administration that have our back too. Today, trucks are 99% cleaner than a generation ago. We need great partners in government to continue that process. We cannot allow one state's regulations to disrupt our entire nation's supply chain. Allowing California to do so would have negativity impacted the hundreds and thousands of truck drivers who deliver critical goods across the country each and every day. In order to deliver for American families and businesses, we need realistic national standards. With the signing of this resolution, Mr. President, you have delivered the leadership that trucking industries need. Promises made, promises kept. On behalf of the On behalf of the 8.5 million Americans who work throughout the trucking industry, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Great job. So just to wrap it up, I say under the Trump administration, we will restore the full strength, might, and glory of the American auto and trucking industry. We'll protect our truck drivers, auto workers, small business people, and manufacturers all over our country, and actually all over the world, and that's okay too. They'll be doing a product that works, a product that's much more efficient, that's better, it's much better, less expensive, and we'll put affordable energy and affordable car ownership back on the center of the American dream as we make America great again, and that's what's happening. We're making America great. You know, when I went over to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, just a couple of weeks ago, the leaders of those countries, and they're very smart people, they said, you know, you've made in a short period of time America the hottest nation in the world. It's the hottest that you're the only one we talk about now. And 6 months ago, it was a laughingstock. They said that to me, those words. It was a laughingstock, and it was an absolute laughingstock. We've got the hottest nation right now in the whole world, and the numbers are reflecting it too. So I just think it's great. And what I'll do is I'll sign this, then we can take a couple of questions if you want. And we will be finished, and you're going to
Oh, you know
go
they
off
want to
and you're
ask
gonna
you
build
questions.
the most
Sir,
beautiful automobiles
Sir,
for
you know they want to ask you
20% less
questions.
money. And I want to thank you, man. You have done some job. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody. You guys want to come up here? Beyond it?
Shout out to the 45th, now the 47th President of the United States. This is what we voted for. Hard work, accountability, law and order, okay? This is what we voted for. This is exactly what we voted for.
Okay, we're going to sign 3 bills that
Yeah, that's
do
right.
everything I just. Only a steady hand can sign like that, right? Absolutely. Right? I've been told that, actually.
Oh, auto
And here's
pen.
number 3, and it all goes
Body
into
auto
effect.
pen,
Everything
y'all.
I said goes into effect. Lower prices, better cars, and choice.
sense.
You can say choice. We have choice for education, and you have choice for cars now, right? Common sense is right. You're right. Common sense is right. Okay, now I can give you the pen. And I'll give you these. Shall
Dr. Luke, shout out to the GOAT. Shout out to the GOAT, Luke. Dr. Luke says, winning feels good. You damn right, man. You are damn right.
Congratulations, John. Okay, you'll take these. Pass these around, fellas. Where's John James for his father? Oh, yeah. You have one, John?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Pass them around. Okay, everybody. There's a few extra. You're going to take them and give them to some of the people. Okay? Go ahead, please.
Look at, oh man. Oh my goodness.
All right. Brian, yeah, please.
Yes, sir. I have some very close friends who run some of the largest auto dealerships in Southern California, the Westback Automotive Group.
Good.
Their message to you, they're 100% behind you right now. They know they're going through some soft sales period.
It's true.
They're in it for the long haul. What's your message to thousands of auto dealerships across this country that are kind of navigating through this tariff?
Yeah, they're going to do better than ever before. They're going to sell cars in America at levels that they've never even thought of before. And they're going to make more money than they ever made before. It's going to be great. They're going to be selling a better car, too. It's going to be a better product.
And they're behind you 100%.
I know that. They have been behind me, right? They knew it was right they've been asking for this for 25, 30 years, in all fairness. No, they're very happy. I told you the Auto Workers Union, we got tremendous votes. But they like me today even better than they did on Election Day on November 5th, because they see the results now. They're all happening. And yeah, and they have plants moving in, Brian. A lot of plants are moving in. Thank you very much for that question. Yeah.
Was Governor Gavin Newsom trying to kill the auto industry then?
Oh, he was killing the auto industry. I don't think he knew it. I think he's a guy who he's just got a faulty thought process. You look at that train. The train is the most. I've seen people, stupid people with cost overruns for years. I've watched where something would cost twice as much or 3 times, but this thing is costing 20 times more. It's the most incredible disaster I've ever seen. That's one. The cars are just as bad. Everything's bad. And now you have this situation. So his own sheriff, who's a good man, by the way, said 2 days ago or 3 days ago that we could not have done this without the military. They were going to take over this whole, they couldn't have done it. Now today they got him to change his tune. He said, oh, I think we could have handled it. You know, it's so sad. He was so honest. I was using his quote all over the place, and they got him to change. But he knows. Los Angeles would be right now burning to the ground, just like the houses burned to the ground. It's so sad what's going on in Los Angeles. Think of it. They had a fire that should have never had because they should have listened to me in the water. Eventually, we broke in and we had the water come down from the Pacific Northwest. I could show you pictures now with the half pipes, the big half pipes coming all the way down California. Water, so much water. They don't have any droughts. They don't have any. They have so much water. They sent it all out to the Pacific Ocean for 20 years. So ridiculous. And we got them to take it now. But what they do and what they're doing, this is a big problem. And what they really want to do is keep criminals because they're trying to protect criminals. Sanctuary cities are a disaster in this country. And most of the voters don't want them. Politicians like them for whatever reason, but I think the politicians are wrong. That's why we won in such a convincing fashion. We won all 7 swing states. We won by millions of votes. We won 2,750 districts as opposed to 505. That's why when you look at the map, it's almost all red. It's got 2 little blue stripes on each side of it. It's almost all red. But now you have to... I always got along with Gavin. I like Gavin. I've liked him, always. He said I never called him. You know, they asked him a question on Fox, I guess. I never spoke to him. He doesn't remember the call. He doesn't remember. I never spoke. And then I produced a phone call. I had it. It took me about 2 minutes. I said, well, here's the call. It lasted 16 minutes and 4 seconds. And it was at 12:30 in the evening. I actually made a call, didn't pick up. I called him a second time, and he picked up. And I told him, I said, you have to get your ass in gear because you're going to have a problem there. And he would have. If we didn't bring the military in, he would have had, you would have right now something. And I went through it because I follow the rules 100%. And I watched in Minnesota where you have the man who ran for vice president of the United States. Fortunately, he was a disaster. But he wouldn't call in the National Guard. And I eventually called in the National Guard, but it was seven days late. I said, I'll never do that again. I'm never going to, if I see problems brewing, if they're not going to do the problem, I'm not going to wait 2 weeks. Because that city, Minneapolis, burned down. If you remember the CNN anchor, he was standing there saying, yes, this is a peaceful rally. And behind him, the entire city was on fire. Looked like World War II. And I appreciate the question. Please. Thank you.
First, the terrible, horrific plane crash in India today. You saw the images on TV. Your reaction to that first, and will you speak to Prime Minister Modi?
The plane crash was terrible. I've already told them anything we can do. It's a big country, a strong country. They'll handle it, I'm sure. But I let them know that anything we can do, we'll be over there immediately. But it was a horrific crash. It looks like most are gone. They actually maybe have a couple survivors, which is just heard. But that was a horrible crash. Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea what it might be. I gave him a couple of pointers. I said, maybe you look at this or that. You know, we saw the plane. It looked like it was flying pretty well. It didn't look like there was an explosion. It just looked like the engines maybe lost power. But boy, that is a terrible crash. It's one of the worst in aviation history. Yeah, second?
How confident are you, sir, that conflict with Iran can be avoided?
Well, I'd love to avoid the conflict. Iran's going to have to negotiate a little bit tougher, meaning they're going to have to give us some things that they're not willing to give us right now. I'm the last person. I've kept us out of wars. We defeated ISIS completely, 100%, and I haven't had it's peace through strength. I believe in peace through strength. We have the greatest military in the world. I rebuilt the military, as you remember, for 4 years. I rebuilt the military, and then we gave a chunk of it away, but it was still peanuts. It was a lot, but it was peanuts compared to what we rebuilt. Gave it to Afghanistan, one of the most embarrassing moments in the history of our country with the whole withdrawal, the way they withdrew was very embarrassing. But we rebuilt the military. We have the greatest, strongest military. We defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS in 4 weeks. It was told to be 5 years. It was going to take 5 years, anywhere from 4 to 5 years. We did it in 4 weeks, with, by the way, headed by the general who's now the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's why he's there. He said it would take 4 weeks, and he did it in 4 weeks. He did actually a little bit faster. So we have a great country, and we're going to keep it that way. And when it comes to Los Angeles or other cities, if we see other cities are gearing up, and these people are agitators, they're paid, they're professionals, they're insurrectionists, they're troublemakers, they're all of those things. But I believe they're paid, and we're going to find out through Pam Bondi and her great staff, her great people at Justice, who they are. And Mike, I think you're doing some investigations in that in Congress, but we're going to find out who they are, because they're really, I think what they're doing is unbelievably illegal. Just one thing. So they took the bricks away from people. They're walking in with satchels of bricks. Now, why do you have bricks? You have bricks because you throw bricks. They're very potent. If they hit you, they kill you. And they took them away. The military took them away. They saw him. What the hell is this? The guy could hardly carry me. Many bricks. He's a strong guy. Couldn't carry him. And they saw that, and they took him away. Then they found others with bricks. But they're ingenious. They also brought hammers along, very heavy hammers. And I saw them pounding the curb and pounding the sidewalk. And it was like a military operation. This guy's pounding strong, boom, big shots. And it was breaking up granite, the granite curbs. And the granite was breaking up, and the concrete was breaking up. And there was lines of people standing there, and they're handing him. And then he stopped handing them. They just went down and picked him up. It was so professional. I said, that's a professional organization. This is not like people at random. This guy's breaking up because they couldn't use the bricks. So who would think of this even? Did a lot of damage. A lot of curbs are broken. A lot of sidewalks broken. But I never saw that before. That's one I haven't seen. I thought I saw it all. And they have it on tape. And with that, people get killed. You know, they go to the bridges and they drop the concrete off the top of the bridge with a car coming along at 70 miles an hour, and the person dies. And we had a lot of car problems. You saw that. They were all over the road. They were littered all over the road, where the cars got stopped by concrete going through the front windshield. Now, these are bad people. If we didn't go, Los Angeles right now would be on fire. It would be a disaster. And we stopped it. And last night was very good. Nobody showed up. You know why they didn't show up? Because we were there. If it was just the police, because the police are great. I know those police, they're great, but they're told not to do anything. They're not allowed to act. Thank you. Well, I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like it's something that could very well happen. Look, it's very simple, not complicated. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Other than that, I want them to be successful. I want them to be tremendous. We'll help them be successful. We'll trade with them. We'll do whatever is necessary. You know, I stopped a war between India and Pakistan. And I stopped it with trade. I don't think I've ever seen a story written about it, but it was pretty cool. They were getting ready. Pakistan was now It was their turn to hit, and eventually they're going to go nuclear. And I stopped it. I called each. I respect each leader greatly and know them. And I spoke to them, and I talked about trade. I said, but you're not trading with us if you're going to go to war, if you're going to start throwing nuclear weapons around. And I said it to both of them, and they were both unbelievable, actually. They understood it exactly. They stopped. I stopped that war with phone calls and trade. And India's here right now negotiating a trade deal, and Pakistan's coming, I think, next week. And I'm very proud of that. Nobody died. Nobody, the nuclear weapons, they each have very severe, very substantial numbers of nuclear weapons. And I think we should get some credit for that. You know, the whole Republican Party should, because that's their mindset. Please. Yes, ma'am. What? Look, I've always been in favor of students coming in from other countries. That includes China. And we have 500,000 Chinese students coming in. I've always been in favor of it. Does it mean that you have to watch people? Yeah, you have to watch students, but you have to watch other people also. I've always been strongly in favor of it. I think it's a great thing. It's also, it's good for our schools. It's good for, I think it's good for our country. I'm also in favor of having them stay. I've been in favor of letting them stay. If you get educated for 4 years, you're willing to get educated for 4 years. I like people being able to stay. You know, they have some great students. You have some, yeah, these are Republicans clapping. You know, because a lot of Republicans don't like that idea. I happen to like it. I'm a real Republican, believe it or not. But I like the idea. They go 4 years. To me, that's almost like, you know, just buying your way in a very legitimate way. And, you know, you have stories where Apple wants to hire somebody and they can't hire him because he can't stay. He went to a great school. He finished first in his class. They made him a big offer. And everything's done, but he has no idea whether or not he's going to be able to stay. And I'm all for making sure that people like that can go to work for all of our great companies. And you know what they do? They go back to their country, and there are stories that are all over the place. They go back to their company, and they start a company just like they were going to start here. They end up starting it in China or India or someplace else, and now they're among the richest people in the world. They've got thousands and thousands of employees that make it great. This is happening all the time, because they're not allowed to stay. And I think we'll probably end up doing something about that, right? I think. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You in the blue, please. Light blue.
Thank you, Mr. President. How close are you to the setback home between Ukraine and Russia? We see a very bad escalation. Are you going to leave it in the hands of the Europeans?
I'm very close to the situation. I'm very disappointed in Russia. But I'm disappointed in Ukraine also, because I think deals could have been made. And, you know, we're losing 5,000, 6,000 people a week, soldiers mostly, but also people living in towns because they're getting hit by missiles again. How'd you like to live in a building and you think a missile has a good chance of hitting your building during the evening? It's horrible. Must be horrible to live like that. But, I mean, we'll get it, but it's, I'm disappointed that it's not done. We did great with India and Pakistan. We did very good with Israel. I thought, look, October 7th was a disaster. People forget, you know, they like to forget. That was a horrible thing. But, you know, none of these things would have happened if I were president. If I were president, none of it would have happened. You wouldn't have the Israel problem. Iran was broke. They had no money. We had big sanctions on them. Biden immediately let them get rich, the $300 billion they have right now. But they had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah. They had no money for anything. It was perfect. We wouldn't have had inflation that was caused by oil, Chris. The oil price went through the roof. It was also caused by their spending, but it was caused more by oil than anything else. The oil went so high, got close to $100 a barrel. And that cost, and that also kept the war going with Putin, because at $100 a barrel, that was a big money-making experience. But now it's down to where it's not so good for them anymore. No, it's very important to get that solved. That's a bloodbath. That's a terrible bloodbath that's going on. Yeah, please, go ahead. Go ahead.
Following up your question, answer on India and Pakistan, for stopping the war between them. India says that they cannot stop Pakistan unless Pakistan takes actions against terrorists.
I mean, we're going to get those two getting together, you know? I told them, India and Pakistan, they've had a long time rivalry over Kashmir. And I said, I can solve anything. I'll be your arbitrator. I will be your arbitrator. I can solve anything. And I started the first question, how long has it been going on? They said, 2,000 years. I said, oh, that's a problem. Maybe I'll take it.
Mr. President.
When I heard 2,000 years, I said, maybe I'll have John Hess solve that problem.
Mr. President, will you punish Israel for striking Iran?
Peter?
Thank you, President Trump. I have two. First, on immigration. What made you change your mind about targeting in California farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business?
Well, we're not targeting. In fact, if you look today, I put out a statement today about farmers. Our farmers are being hurt badly by, you know, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, you know, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. And you know what's going to happen and what is happening? They get rid of some of the people because, you know, you go into a farm and you look and people don't, they've been there for 20, 25 years and they've worked great and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else. And then you're supposed to throw them out. And you know what happens? They end up hiring the people, the criminals that have come in, the murderers from prisons and everything else. So we're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think. We can't do that to our farmers and leisure too, hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense on that.
And my other question about the Middle East. As the Israelis apparently gear up for some kind of an attack, a possible attack on Iran, are you trying to talk Netanyahu out of doing that? Or are you so against Iran having a nuclear weapon that you're okay, he does his thing because it is not an American war?
Yeah, it's a very fair question. Look, I want to have an agreement with Iran. We're fairly close to an agreement. We are fairly close to a pretty good agreement. It's got to be better than pretty good, though, but it's got to be, I'd much prefer an agreement. As long as I think there is an agreement, I don't want them going in because I think that would blow it. Might help it, actually, but it also could blow it. But we've had very good discussions with Iran. Whether or not we get there, I can't tell you, but it'll happen soon. I say this, Peter, very strongly. They can't have, whether it's going in or not going in, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I'd prefer the more friendly path.
And can you tell us what the Israelis told you that made you start to evacuate the dependents of servicemen and women who are stationed in the Middle East?
They didn't tell me anything, but I said, look, there's a chance of massive conflict. We have a lot of American people in this area, and I said, we got to tell them to get out because something could happen soon. And I don't want to be the one that didn't give any warning and missiles are flying into their buildings. It's possible. So I had to do it. You know, I had the choice. Do I do it or not? Doing it has its downside, but it also has its upside. Like, you're going to save a lot of lives if it should happen. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Right? Thank you.
Mr. President, for Americans that are coming to Washington on Saturday for military break,
It's going to be a great day.
What would you like folks to take away from that day? What would you hope that they would remember? And also, Mr.
How great our country is, and how strong our military is. We have the strongest military in the world. You know, it's very interesting. 3 weeks ago, it was the end of world anniversary, end of World War II, and I called France and Macron, who's a good man. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "We're celebrating World War II, our victory." I said, "Your victory? Your victory? Tell me about that." And then I called somebody else, and I happened to speak to President Putin at the time. Now, in all fairness to him, he lost 51 million people, and he did fight. Russia fought. Sort of interesting, isn't it? He fought with us in World War II, and everybody hates him. And Germany and Japan, they're fine. You know, someday somebody will explain that, but I like Germany and Japan too. But Putin is a little confused by that, you know. He said, we lost 51 million people, and we were your ally. And now everybody hates Russia, and they love Germany and Japan. I said, let's explain that sometime, okay? But it's a it's a strange world. But I will say this, look, I want them to go away saying how great our country is and how great our military is. And I was making all these calls. For some reason, I spoke to like 4 different places. Sir, are you celebrating? And I said, you know, we won World War II and World War I, right? We won them. And yet we're the only country that doesn't celebrate. Everybody's celebrating except us. And I said, we should celebrate too.
Several No Kings protests planned across the country on Saturday as well. What are your thoughts on those?
What do they call it? No King?
No Kings.
I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved. A king would say, I'm not going to get this. A king would have never had the California mandate to even be talking to him. He wouldn't have to call up Mike Johnson and Thune and say, fellas, you got to pull this off, and after years we get it done. No, we're not a king. We're not a king at all. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir,
go ahead.
Mr. President, sir, you made a lengthy posting today on Truth Social about Senator Rand Paul. Do you expect to see him at the picnic tonight, sir?
I do. I look forward to seeing him, actually. I like him. He's the hardest vote in the history of the U.S. Senate to get. Probably won't get him, but he's a very tough vote. I mean, he's a very tough vote. He's always been a friend of mine. You know, I endorsed him and got him elected. I got him elected twice. But I don't think he understands how great this bill is. This is a great bill. No tax on tips, no tax on, you know, the Social Security payments. It's unbelievable what happens. No tax on overtime. You work overtime, no more tax. It's so, those are big, but they're minor compared to the big things. Taxes reduced. And let's look at the other side. If it doesn't get approved, a 68% tax increase, 68%, including the fact that the Trump tax cuts kick in. But it's a 68% tax increase and many other bad things. I don't even want to, some of them are so bad I don't even want to talk about them. I think it's one of the greatest bills we'll ever pass in this country. And I think that Leader Thune and this gentleman right here, what he's gone through on this with, you know, we started off with a majority of 1. Now I guess we have 7. So it's like easier, but it's really sort of 3. It's 7, but it really equates to 3, right? And we have great support. I mean, I can't tell you, I can't guarantee, but when you have a majority of essentially 3, where you can't lose anything more than 3 votes, and you get it passed, it's pretty amazing. And I think it's going to haunt the Democrats because most of the bill is common sense. It's tax cuts, it's border wall funding, it's military funding properly spent. It's all things that are like common sense. They're all good. There's nothing tricky about it. It's basic stuff. And we don't intend on getting one, think of it, not one Democrat vote in the House. Mike, not one. Maybe somebody will come along. I don't know how they can run for office. So many different things. We're gonna very important, Medicare and Medicaid are gonna be strengthened, not hurt. You know, they're using fake narrative. Oh, no, they're gonna be strengthened. We're gonna strengthen them. They're gonna destroy them because under their policies, Medicare and Medicaid go away. Social Security under them is gonna be devastated. With us, it's gonna be kept, but much stronger than before. And very interestingly, I saw this and I proved it because for 4 years, I never hurt Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. I've already been there. But they're going to destroy Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. They're going to wipe them out, in my opinion, because their policies are so bad, the country will have no money to pay for them. We're going to make them stronger than ever before. Thank you very much, everybody.
This is what we voted for, 1,000%. This is what we voted for. Anyway, you guys, there's been a great update for sure. All right. A senator in California was definitely swooped out. It was fun to watch. Look at it.
Erupting
Look
in
at it.
21 cities. And
Look
a
at it.
Kristi Noem presser A shocking scene in Los Angeles as California Democratic Senator Alex Padilla barged his way into DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's news conference on the LA riots, only to be forcefully removed and handcuffed while on the floor. Watch.
Hands up, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your
I also want to
hands off.
how many of our ICE agents have been docked or
On the ground. On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go, I put them behind my back.
All right. Cool. One hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
Well, Senator Padilla and Secretary Noem met afterwards for 15 minutes. They swapped phone numbers, and it was cordial and beneficial. Here's what they had to say.
Are you physically hurt, Senator Padilla?
Let's come to the microphone, please.
Okay.
If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers.
If he had requested a meeting, I would have loved to have sat down and had a conversation with him. That coming into a press conference like this is political theater.
And Padilla wasn't the only showboating Democrat today. Blue State Governors Tim Walz, J.B. Pritzker, and Kathy Hochul were on Capitol Hill as Republicans hammered their state sanctuary policies and refusal to deport dangerous illegals.
He found a sleeping woman on the subway, lit her on fire, and burned her alive. This is in Kathy Hochul's New York.
These crimes are horrific.
Because of your sanctuary state policies.
I don't know how many hearings we gonna have about the fact that there's been this one immigrant that killed this one person.
People can't afford basic needs, and you're ripping our loved ones away from us because you don't have the courage to fix our broken immigration system.
All right, Greg Gutfeld, I want to go to Senator Padilla. The DHS called it theater, right? They said that he didn't identify himself. He had no senator pin. He forcefully lunged. Would you describe this as a stunt by the senator?
I don't know. Do we have to keep reminding Democrats that Trump was nearly killed 11 months ago? It was a fraction of an inch away from death. And it's like they still don't take that seriously. They spent more time on Elon Musk's salute. Do you remember that? So this douche thinks he can plow in after his party spent, I don't know how many years demonizing Trump and by extension supporters and his cabinet. You know, you don't know what security's going to do. He was lucky he wasn't flattened. And if they had acted differently, who knows what would have happened? I don't know who that guy is. Maybe they didn't know who that guy was. If they didn't act correctly, they could have lost their jobs. But Padilla shows why you need order and grown-ups. This is a microcosm. Some guy bursts into a presser shouting, expects to be treated preferentially. He expected his invasion to be allowed. What does that sound like? Their policy with illegal criminals. He just represented that. You will see that video more than you will see the riots that the media denies. It'll be all over the place, which means we should treat it just the way the legacy media treats the riots. That was basically a mostly peaceful hug, you know? And by the way, whatever he was saying, Gavin Newsom tweets, if you handcuff a U.S. senator, what will they do to, like, citizens? Dude, I would assume the same thing, because according to you idiots, no one is above the law. Then can I just touch on the hearings? Watching Stefanik eviscerate Hochul, this is where responsibility meets virtue signaling. And for so long, it required no responsibility. All you had to say was sanctuary city because you didn't have to live it. Now, people lived it. Hochul had no defense at all because she had no defense. What are you going to say? Yeah, I didn't have a sanctuary city. How can the Dems not see that their policies and their beliefs made Trump's presidency inevitable? You know, MAGA didn't just elect Trump. Democrats did.
You know, by the way, Senator Padilla was supposed to play first base at the congressional baseball game, but then he flew back to L.A. to do this. And as everyone's Central Park Softball League resident catcher. You don't abandon your post, all right? You don't abandon
even
your
get to
position.
first base.
All right, Jesse, the media coverage over the hearings today called it it devolved over the treatment of immigrants. But isn't the point that it's actually about the treatment of laws, i.e. ignoring them, and the treatment of law enforcement, i.e. blatant obstruction and assaulting them, and the treatment of citizens, i.e. deprioritizing them and putting them in danger? Like, as always, the media totally misses the point.
Say IE one more time.
I counted 3.
IE. How about that?
Yeah, the hearings didn't go well today for the Democrats. It's just a bad day for the Democrats. They just are such a bad party. I'm not even taking them seriously anymore. Real men do not let their emotions take over them, okay? This is what Code Pink does, Jessica. They run and they scream and they cause a scene. Real men don't almost cry at a press conference when they just bum rushed a woman. And Greg's right. He didn't seem like a senator. He seemed like a crazy man in person.
Hey, I just wanted to say to Michael Krieger, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, but he is a moderator. And he said he's been working hard and has been fighting for the custody of his son or his kids. I just wanted to say, brother, God is your strength, okay? I saw that message. You typed it a while ago. I just wanted to let you know I saw it. And then God is your strength, bro. God is your strength. I know it must be hard right now, but don't give up, man. Keep fighting. Your kids need you. And there's nothing that's going to replace a father's love in a kid's life, okay? I'm praying for you. I love you, bro. Keep doing your thing, man. And God got you, all right? Let's keep going.
Impersonating a senator. No one knows who Alex Padilla is. Is his name Alex? No one knows who this guy is. He's not Fetterman. He's not Lindsey Graham. No one recognized him. Oh, it's the junior senator from California. Let's make way. He's a nobody. He's a no-name. And these police officers didn't know who he was because he wasn't even wearing his little Senate badge. He wasn't in a suit. This was a stunt. Some would call it gonzo journalism. Some would say I pulled similar stunts for The Factor. And I did, because I was a stupid producer, not a senator. These guys are supposed to move the masses with eloquent words and great uplifting speeches, or they could legislate and they could make it illegal to break into the country. So why don't they just do that and drop the nonsense? This guy is doing it because his base is furious that they don't look like they're doing anything. So he has to show the base he's a fighter, and he's doing it for attention to raise cash. And then he's trying to frame Trump as a dictator because then Trump's guys put him in handcuffs, and he's like, oh, my God, I'm a political prisoner. And then everybody says, wow, Trump's really Hitler, and then they shoot him in the head again. That's what the end result of this is going to be.
Jessica, first of all, I love that the two Jessies are twins. That's so cute. You guys started out
even coordinate.
United. All right, Jessica. So here's a couple of quotes. So Newsom said, outrageous and shameful. Schumer sickened. Your boy Rep Swalwell said, they are terrorizing our community. And the irony to me is that these guys were talking about the Senator Padilla situation and ICE. But when I hear those phrases, I would think they would be talking about throwing Molotov cocktails at law enforcement vehicles or shooting fireworks at the heads of ICE agents, but they're not. Why are they directing their outrage at the ICE agents and enforcement of laws rather than those who are destroying them?
Well, they did speak out about the Molotov cocktails, especially the Boulder incident from a week and a half ago or whenever it was. So I don't think those are really fair comparisons. And Jesse says this is a bad day for Democrats. And I would argue that this is a cataclysmic day for the Trump administration and their immigration policy, because it turns out that Donald Trump agrees with Democrats about immigration policy. He started out the day on Truth Social saying, oh, the people who work in hotel and leisure, they have some very good people that are working for them. They're very hardworking. And he knows that because he employed a lot of illegals to work at his clubs, like at Bedminster. And he says, well, we should leave those people. We don't want to push them out of their jobs. And then he finishes up the day. He does a press conference and he expands, because I guess he heard from his friends in big ag, is that what we call it, the agriculture folks, who said, hands off our farm laborers. Maybe you should stop going to job sites and picking people up who come and do work that Americans don't want to do.
You're the one who's conflating
so now,
it,
I'm
not him. He's not conflating good people with bad people. You are.
No, actually, he is being very clear that what Stephen Miller is executing, because Stephen Miller is the one who is in charge of this. Stephen Miller is the one that is saying,
you guys got mad with the worst first. You know what?
No,
he was doing the
because
worst first and you were already
wasn't.
mad.
No, I wasn't. I was thrilled with worst first. Lock them all up. The point is 70% of the people who have been taken
Like the
away
Maryland dad.
are not convicted criminal. You're interrupting me because I'm on a roll and I'm going to keep going. So Donald Trump's position on this, or at least the one that he said publicly today, and who knows if they actually changed the policy, is reflective of exactly what those blue state governors were saying. If you listen to the content of J.B. Pritzker, if you listen to what Gavin Newsom has been saying, criminals out, and protesters, by the way, who have been violent, put them in jail as well.
But you don't have a process for that.
Yeah, of course we do. That's why they've been arrested. Gavin Newsom.
Why is Trump doing this? Because you guys neglected this.
No.
That's why this is happening.
Neglect people who show
So now
up
you're
at
going.
Home
Now you're upset
Depot
about the
to go to their
process.
No, I'm not. I am not upset about the process of getting people who are convicted of a crime out of this country. I'm upset about the process of showing up at immigration court, at a Home Depot stop, at a nail salon.
You were very upset
I don't want
about
to talk
the
about your
Maryland
cuticles
dad.
again.
Now,
First of all, I don't call him a
where is
Maryland
he?
dad. What?
Where is the Maryland
what do you mean?
dad?
He's huddling up with his lawyers. They've sued the Trump administration for contempt, and he'll get his day in court.
Well,
which is what everybody wants. The majority of Americans just wants you to be able to see an immigration judge and then send him back to El Salvador, but not to CCOT.
I kind of want him duck walking in the CCOT in his white underwear.
Why? Until what's in the indictment is
I can
proven?
tell you why if you'll let me talk. I didn't interrupt you.
Say it to Greg, because Greg interrupted me.
Let me explain why. Because people like you think that immigration is a victimless crime. You truly believe that, or you think it's a net positive, illegal immigration. I come from a border city that is full of illegal immigrants, so much so that our Mexican restaurants have been closed down for a week and a half because ICE is there, invited. Come on in, help us out a little bit. We have problems. But this idea that illegal immigration is somehow victimless, if it's a victimless crime, and I'm not saying that everyone committing the crime is a bad person. The empathy isn't not there. Don't mistake my kindness for weakness. If it's a victimless crime, then my nieces don't have to change schools because there aren't enough English speakers in their class to get through a lesson in Dalton, Georgia. If it's a victimless crime, then you don't have a situation where you can't use the health department because it's overran with illegal immigrants. If it's a victimless crime, you don't have a situation where every major function in your municipality is overran by illegal immigrants who have been educated and understand what they can come here and get, not what they can come here and do. And this idea about cheap labor, let me tell you what cheap labor did. My dad used to lay brick at $600 a thousand with a four-man crew, get it done well, and once it was done perfectly. Mexicans come across the border, they'll lay it for $300 a thousand. 20 people show up, they do it quick, fast, in a hurry, and then it falls over at the end of winter because they didn't do it right. Not because they're bad people, but because they learned to do it with the materials they had. That's the victims of cheap labor, of illegal immigration, of doing things the wrong way. The administration says self-deport will put you first in line to get back here. Democrats say, well, there isn't a line to get back here. Well, why the hell isn't there a line to get back here? Maybe because when Trump handed Nancy Pelosi DACA and visa reform and other things in exchange for the wall, she couldn't let him have that policy win in his first term. That's the problem. The partisan politics is the problem. That senator from California, who the real insult is nobody knows who the hell he is, he's showing up like that today. That is the problem. That gets nothing done. I'm a big fan of normalizing treating elected officials in power like regular people, and that's exactly what they would have done to someone else.
Uh-oh. And that's facts. If it was a normal common man, they would have dragged his ass out. So senators can get it too.
I want to start with you. So I think the world of deep fakes, cheap fakes, I want all of that stuff to be accurate, but I do struggle with the way that the right is talking about the LA riots and Donald Trump calls January 6th a day of love.
Well, I don't call it a day of love.
You definitely have.
But you guys
like,
did
"That's
run
catchy."
January 6th video for 2 years.
But it was accurate.
Okay,
And then
so
they all
we
got
should just
pardoned.
run the LA riots for 2 years and
LA
hold hearings
from
then,
the
right,
90s
Jessica?
when it really
These
happened?
riots, Jessica, because they were $1 billion in damage. That's what the Small Business Administrator just said on Fox. If this wasn't a riot, why'd the mayor had to call curfew for the entire area of downtown? If this wasn't a riot, why'd the mayor beg all the business community to come help clean it up? If this wasn't a riot, why do we see videos of the Apple Store and T-Mobile getting looted and 7-Eleven? Why have we seen interviews with small business owners crying because their entire jewelry store was looted? If this is what looks like when LA Lakers win the championship, they don't celebrate for 6 days, Jessica. This is a 6-day riot. And by the way, January 6th lasted 6 hours. This is going on for 6 days. And why, if Trump is provoking it with a National Guard, has it spread to Seattle and New York City? Because there's no National Guard in Seattle and New York City, so how is he involved with that? Well, riddle me that, Jessica.
I'm supposed to ask questions in this block, but I do have an answer for that, but I don't want to eat up Emily's time. Okay, so the footage is real. But the White House, for instance, posted a video yesterday of cars burning, but they were from Saturday.
Oh,
Isn't that Well, it is. If they're telling people that something is going on that the fire had been put out days before, doesn't that make a difference?
Well, I think timeliness in that context encompasses the entire duration of the riot. So if we were analyzing this like in the course of many crimes, you would include that entire span, so the 6 days duration. I hear what you're saying. It's not immediate, but I don't think it's irrelevant, and I still think it's timely. I feel like, all of the pundits and all of the lawmakers who say that this isn't violent, they haven't seen violence. It is a luxury, in my opinion, to hold the position that words are violent, like Pelosi has said, or that all Trump supporters are domestic terrorists, like Maxine Waters has said, but not see that with our eyes exactly what that. I mean, that is horrifying. All of the flames, all of the everything. And I feel like they want to pick and choose what laws are enforced. So if I misgender someone in California, right, that makes me literally a criminal. But a recidivist rapist in San Jose, he's protected because it's sanctuary. And as Secretary Noem said today at the presser, she said Californians have been conditioned that their actions don't have consequences, and now they do. So whether you're a senator or an illegal immigrant or an anarchist getting paid to throw bricks, now you're going to see consequences. Like we just had the woman here in New York City, she threw a Molotov cocktail at a law enforcement vehicle. There were officers inside, she got 6 years. And there's been a smattering of finally accountability for people torching law enforcement vehicles. They're getting 2.5, 3.5, even 5.5 years. And I feel like these are the same Dems too that reclassified all of the crimes after COVID. They reduced violent crimes to non-violent, like stalking, and now they're like, oh, right, the label. No, that's non-violent because it says here in black and white, but they're missing the forest for the trees, and everyone can see through their lies just by watching the screen.
I so want to talk about January 6th pardons, but I do need to go to you, Greg. So because I live in reality, I know that these images are going to come up in elections in 2026 and 2028. And do you think they're going to hurt Democrats?
I don't look at this politically. I look at it as a societal issue. And I don't understand why the Dems continue to always side with the people who want to destroy this country. And they say, oh, it's only a 4 square-block area. Well, great, do that with fire. There's a 4 square block blaze going uncontrolled, but it's just 4 square blocks. It's kind of what they did in LA. I love how the Dems say there's no riot, but if there is one, it's Trump's fault. That's pretty interesting too. The media lives in an alternate universe, and the Dems do too. The what if universe. What if Trump didn't send the troops? He didn't have to do that. What if? It would have been fine. No, we have evidence what happens. It's called the George Floyd riots. We know what happens when you don't restore order. Lawlessness leads to more lawlessness. We saw it. Also, we saw it with the Palisades fire. You guys had a terrible response. It got worse. And like you said, it's a luxury to say this because Trump prevented more chaos. It also amazes me that the media still thinks they matter after telling us not to believe what our ears and eyes told us about Biden. They're trying to tell us about deep fakes. These guys fell for the Covington kid. They fell for Jussie Smollett. They fell for the Fine People hoax. They fell for drinking bleach in the Koi Pond. They're susceptible to the deception. The American people were fine. The only deception, the most important deception that we uncovered is the media, and we won't be fooled again. To quote Pete Townsend.
Won't be fooled again. Jessica.
In your face, Jessica.
You can't in your face me. It's my own segment.
In your face, Jessica segment.
Joey.
Yeah, real quick. You know who didn't fall for it? The American people didn't fall for it. Donald Trump was president, and he won the presidency by all accounts by a large margin. And he won the presidency because of everything that happened in the years leading up to him running for president, to include Democrats running January 6th videos ad nauseum. I mean, I think you would agree the message got out about January 6th. The American people had a fair shake at deciding how much it mattered. But what also got out were the riots in 2020, were the way that this is happening, things where Democrats spit in your face and tell you that it's raining. Oh, Gavin Newsom, these aren't riots. Jimmy Kimmel, these aren't riots. There's nothing going on. Okay, well, the American people get a chance to judge. And if this is the best the Democrats have to offer, is riots in response to immigration policy, man, J.D. Vance better buckle up because he's got 8 years left after these.
Uh-oh.
As president.
Well, at least Trump is
The
leaving in
Marine.
28, so that's exciting.
Are you sure?
Nope, he's not coming as president of the United States. Just imagine, y'all imagine Gavin Newsom as the president of the United States. God, Jesus. Oh, Lord. Whew.
Now Democrat senators are joining the riots. Alex Padilla, the senator from California, got handcuffed inside of a federal building this afternoon for lunging at a cabinet secretary. Kristi Noem was in Los Angeles giving a press conference about the riots when the senator barged in and ran at her, yelling and screaming.
Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have
Nobody
questions
cares.
for the Secretary,
Nobody cares.
Because the
Get
fact
him
of the
out.
matter is, a half a dozen
Nobody
violent
cares, sir.
criminals that you're rotating on your
I also want to talk
hands
about
off.
specifically how many of our ICE agents have been docked for
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go, I put them behind my back.
All right. Cool. One hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Get him.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
Get him, yo.
Democrats must have known about the stunt ahead of time because within minutes, Newsom yelled dictator, and Congress burst out of their offices.
I just saw something that sickened my stomach. The manhandling of a United States senator. We need immediate answers to what the hell went on.
As if made to kneel before the authority of the executive because he was so-called disrespectful. If you could make Alex Padilla forcibly kneel before this executive, when does it stop?
As a combat veteran, I want to know what this House is going to do, but because a senior senator was attacked, illegally attacked, and drugged to the ground.
MSNBC.
Senators work for the American people. Okay? So you are literally serving the American people. You're not special. You're serving the American people. Okay?
Acting like Trump fired on Fort Sumter.
This is a big escalation of what has been happening in California. Born to immigrants, he himself is the pride of much of the Latino community in the Los Angeles area. To see him manhandled in this way, like a common everyday protester, is going to be particularly jarring for many who are watching from California.
The senator wasn't arrested, wasn't charged, didn't go to jail, but was able to arrange a press conference immediately after.
If this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country.
Was he almost crying? I think he was. Noem says if he wanted to ask her a question, he could have just called.
You know, I had a conversation with the senator after this. We sat down for 10 to 15 minutes and talked about the fact that nobody knew who he was. He didn't say who he was, that until he was already had been lunging forward and people were trying to detain him for quite a period of time. And that this, you know, we're leaders, we're public servants. And if he had requested a meeting, I would have loved to have sat down and had a conversation with him. That coming into a press conference like this is political theater.
The FBI says Padilla never identified himself. and wasn't wearing his Senate security pin. And no one recognized him because no one knows who Senator Padilla is. He's the least recognized senator in the entire Senate. I'm sorry. So a guy wearing street clothes barges into a press conference just yards away from a cabinet secretary and starts lunging at her and screaming. Secretary Noam Security saw him as a threat, and he pushed the federal officers back. He could have been a stalker, an impersonator, or any yahoo off the street. Trump was just shot. You can't have random people lunging at cabinet secretaries. These are the people who say no one's above the law. They arrested Trump 4 times and charged him with 94 crimes. But they think being pushed out of a room crossed a line? Come on. Anyone else would have been treated the same way. Police were just doing their jobs and removing a protester, and now Democrats want to hold hearings.
Will you commit on the record to subpoenaing Kristi Noem because a U.S. senator was just thrown to the ground and detained in his own...
Democrats can't follow the rules, can't follow the law, can't follow the rules.
Shut up.
Just shut up.
No, you don't. No, you're not going to tell me to shut up.
How do you get him in order? You're running for
not like that.
He has been out of order 6 times. He's trying to get on MSNBC. You probably knocked. I get it. Somebody off MSNBC to get on there.
I think because he's been arrested as a former Antifa member, right?
Back to order, Ms. Green. Go.
He's a former Antifa member, Mr. Chairman.
You got
no
it.
surprise.
Who's a former Antifa member? Me?
Yeah, you.
Now, we don't know what was in the water in D.C. today, but Bobby Kennedy should test it. Padilla is trying to act tough for his base, raise money, and get handcuffed so he can call Trump Mussolini. They'll spit this clip out, and the media's going to run with it, but it's not going to get any traction. No one takes these people seriously anymore. The man looks like Code Pink, and men should never act like that. Lunging at women, screaming hysterically, close to tears. Get a hold of yourself, Senator. You're a member of the world's greatest deliberative body. You're supposed to move the country through soaring oratory and eloquent speeches. Or you write laws. That's literally your job, to write laws. He's gone loco. Tampon, JB Back Ribs, and Hochul were all on Capitol Hill begging for Homan to arrest him.
If Tom Homan comes to Albany to arrest me, I'll say, go for it.
If Tom Homan were to come to try to arrest us, I can say, first of all, that he can try.
Democrats say Trump has an enemies list, but they're all begging to get on it. Who begs to get on a dictator's hit list? Exactly. They don't really think he's a dictator. They just want to pretend to be human shields for illegals. Tampon says we just don't know history.
I don't call federal law enforcement officers Gestapo. You were recently quoted. Where's the apology?
Donald Trump.
Oh, no, Donald Trump didn't. Listen, Donald Trump's not here.
Yeah.
You are, Governor.
Yeah.
You're a big boy. Put your big boy pants on.
I would ask, don't wear masks. Identify who you are. Don't pull up an
Governor, you called them Gestapo. Will you apologize for that?
And don't pull people.
Will you apologize for that?
Congressman, my job, I'm a history.
Okay, so you won't.
Democrats called the LA riots the Mexican-American War, then changed it to the Civil War, and now they're saying it's actually World War II. And LA is just like the beaches of Normandy.
When you compare the old films of the Gestapo grabbing people off the streets of Poland, and you compare them to those nondescript thugs who grabbed that student, that graduated student, it does look like a Gestapo operation. It does look like the Gestapo.
All right,
my dad served in Second World War. He fought the Nazis in Northern Africa. He fought the Nazis on the Italian peninsula. And I think he's looking down right now and he's happy that I'm fighting today's Nazis.
One Democrat can't decide whether to call ICE Nazis or slave catchers.
If we just roll this clock on the wall back 75 years, we'd be looking at a time in Nazi Germany where people ran around with signs like this new ICE sign that says, report all foreign invaders to ICE, with Uncle Sam there holding up the sign. This could have been a Gestapo member 75 years ago, report all Jews. 100 years before that, it could be a plantation owner that said, report all Negroes and all coloreds and all those who are from Africa. because they are disrupting our country. So let's not get it twisted here.
Do Democrats have anything else to say besides racist Nazi? If I go on Fox, both shows, and call everyone racist Nazis day after day after day, you'd think I'd lost my mind. I'd probably get fired. Homeless guys talk like this. Do Democrats have Tourette's? Nazi, racist, Nazi, racist. They're not even making any sense. They say they only want to deport the criminals, but then they won't hold them in their jails when they get arrested. They release them before ICE can show up. Democrats don't even know who they have in their own states. Hochul just found out she's protecting a rapist.
Do you know who Sakir Khan is? You should, as the governor of New York State. Do you know?
Refresh my recollection.
He was an illegal migrant in New York. And do you know what crime he committed in addition to being here illegally?
No, I do not.
You do not. This was widely reported. He found a 15-year-old girl, threatened her with a metal pole, told her to get into the back seat of his car. He took her clothes off, and he violently raped her in Albany, New York.
Albany is the capital. It's where the governor lives and works, and she's never heard of this case. Jazzy Crockett says, who cares about migrant rapists? She only wants to talk about one thing.
They love to cherry pick. They can find, any one person that has been killed. And if they've been killed by an immigrant, then God darn it, every single immigrant is going out and they are killers. And that is the problem. But they don't want to talk about white supremacy.
We don't want to talk about white supremacy? It's all we've been talking about. Remember, working out's white supremacy. Being on time is white supremacy. Merit is white supremacy. The Redskins logo, yep, white supremacy. And not admitting you're a white supremacist means you're a white supremacist. LA Mayor Karen Bass says she's okay with a few migrant killers on the loose because she just needs a babysitter.
We'll feel it in the construction industry. We'll feel it in hospitality. We'll feel it at grocery stores. People will begin to notice. You think about the mothers who have nannies and housekeepers. They will feel it when there's nobody to do childcare and there's nobody to take their kids to school. You will feel it when your gardener goes away and you don't know where he or she is.
Oh my gosh, my garden. Who's going to water it? There are over 300 million people in this country. I don't think I'll ever be able to find anybody who knows how to use a hose. So Democrats are letting their cities burn, their stores get looted, and they're lunging at federal officials just so they can keep their housekeepers, gardeners, and babysitters. They're calling ICE the Gestapo and Trump a king because they want their berries picked.
No Kings protests planned across the country on Saturday as well. What are your thoughts on those?
What do they call? No Kings?
No Kings.
I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved. A king would say, I'm not going to get this. A king would have never had the California mandate to even be talking to him. He wouldn't have to call up Mike Johnson and Thune and say, fellas, you got to pull this off. And after years, we get it done. No, we're not a king. We're not a king at all.
A king would have Senator Padilla thrown in a dungeon. But he's not in a dungeon. He sat down with the secretary for a while, and then he held a press conference, and then he went on CNN and MSNBC. If Trump's a king, he's doing a terrible job. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube.
Oh, my goodness. What is going on with
Tel Aviv
Iran?
On what is now early morning in Israel. Trey.
Yeah, Trace, good evening. Overnight, Israel launched a series of strikes, according to the IDF, using dozens of fighter jets to target different positions across Iran, not only hitting the country's nuclear program and their ballistic missile supply, but also targeting individual leadership, including the head of the IRGC, Hussein Salami. This is the top military general in all of Iran, and according to Iranian state media, he is dead. There is currently a state of emergency declared across the entirety of Israel as this country braces for an expected Iranian response. I spoke tonight with an Israeli source who discussed what took place earlier in the evening. This source said Israel was able to surprise Iran. Israel managed to hit several targets in the heart of Tehran and to eliminate multiple senior Iranian regime leaders simultaneously in different spots. Now, at this hour, there are reports of additional explosions taking place in the Iranian capital of Tehran. an indication that the Israelis are continuing those waves of strikes. But again, the question now is, how will the Iranians respond? Israel has a variety of air defense systems, from David's Sling to the Arrow 2 and 3 systems. They also have Patriot missile defense systems and a THAAD system supplied by the United States. But as we saw during an Iranian missile attack back in October that included hundreds of ballistic missiles, this is not a perfect system. And it's part of the reason that Israel's Home Front Command, the branch of the military responsible for communicating with civilians, has ordered everyone in this country to stay close to bomb shelters. This is not a question of if Iran will respond, but rather when and where. We do expect the targets to be extensive, but Israel has prepared for this for not only months, but years. This was something that the Israelis said would have to happen if Iran's nuclear program continued to advance toward a nuclear weapon. We know President Trump tried to pursue as many diplomatic opportunities as possible. His Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, going back and forth to the region in Oman and Europe 5 separate times, meeting with Iranian counterparts, trying to get together some sort of agreement. But the Israelis said that they were too close to a nuclear weapon, according to sources that we have talked to. And again, the decision was made tonight to strike Iranian nuclear facilities. The latest information that we have, the Israeli cabinet met tonight. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation about what is taking place, but we do not expect this to be over in a short period of time. This is likely going to take a matter of weeks.
Oh my goodness. Here we go. Here we go again. All right.
Thank you very much. It's good to have you with us today. We all saw what happened in the video of that room when he was physically taken out, and you heard just now his response, and I understand you had a personal conversation with him as well. So what do you want to say about all of this?
You know, what I would say is we were conducting a press conference to update everyone on the enforcement actions that are ongoing to bring peace to the city of Los Angeles. And this man burst into the room, started lunging towards the podium, interrupting me and elevating his voice, and was stopped, did not identify himself, and was removed from the room. So as soon as he identified himself, appropriate actions were taken. But I would say that, I had a conversation with the senator after this. We sat down for 10 to 15 minutes and talked about the fact that nobody knew who he was. He didn't say who he was, that until he was already had been lunging forward and people were trying to detain him for quite a period of time. And that this, we're leaders, we're public servants. And if he had requested a meeting, I would have loved to have sat down and had a conversation with him. That coming into a press conference like this is political theater. It's wrong, and it does a disservice to this country and the people who live here. So we sat down, had a conversation. We probably disagree on 90% of the topics, but we agreed to exchange phone numbers. We'll continue to talk and share information, and I think that's the way it should be in this country. I wish he would have acted that way in the beginning instead of creating a scene like this.
Well, you're saying that nobody knew who he was, and if they did, he would have been treated differently. And you just heard his comment. He said, if this is the way they treat a U.S. senator, you can only imagine how others are being treated in these deportation efforts. What would you say to that, Secretary?
Yeah. I think his statement is absolutely ridiculous. This man burst into a room, started advancing towards the podium, interrupting an opening statement, elevating his voice, shouting questions. People tried to stop him from interrupting the press conference. He refused and continued to lunge towards the podium, and that is when he was removed from the room. So the way that he acted was completely inappropriate. It wasn't becoming a U.S. senator or a public official, and perhaps he wanted the scene, and that's what he wanted. But I think the American people are sick of this kind of action. I think the American people are tired of this. They just want the truth, and they just want to know what's happening, and that's what we were trying to provide.
We just had a Democrat and a Republican panelists, and both sides agreed that they felt this was unbecoming behavior of a United States senator. But apparently Chuck Schumer doesn't feel that way. Senator Schumer, here's what he just had to say. Watch.
Mr. President, I just saw something that sickened my stomach. The manhandling of a United States senator. We need immediate answers to what the hell went on.
How can these federal agents get away with this? Is the President of the United States telling folks to go down and start arresting United States senators?
What would you say to them, Secretary?
Well, he was never arrested. He was never arrested, and nobody knew who he was when he came into the room creating a scene. He was removed from the room, and yes, they started to put handcuffs on him when he finally identified himself, and then that was stopped. They said he wants to talk to you. I said, sure, I'd love to sit down and visit. So we went to a room and visited for 10 or 15 minutes and then exchanged phone numbers. So I just, I'm so sick of the politics, Martha. This is literally people's lives. We have criminal gangs and terrorists out on our streets that we're trying to remove from Los Angeles. I mean, people just need to get over themselves and have the backs of law enforcement and this president who just want to clean up America and make it safe again.
Yeah, we watched your whole news conference, and then Todd Lyons speaking as well, the director of ICE, who we've spoken with many times, talking about the importance of removing these criminals from the streets. I thought it was very interesting, this exchange with Peter Doocy and President Trump about, who is being detained, who's being arrested, and maybe some changes perhaps to some of the, how some of these situations will be handled. Listen to what President Trump just said about the people who work in the farmlands in California. Watch.
Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that.
So what are your thoughts on that? Because we've been, hearing that anyone who's here illegally will be removed because they've broken the law by crossing over. And obviously the president is citing at least one situation where he wants to see a different approach.
Well, the president wants to enforce the law, and people who've come into this country illegally have broken the law. There are Department of Labor programs and regulations that we can utilize, and he recognizes that there's a very big difference between those who perpetuate criminal activity and are in trafficking and drug trafficking, and those who have been here who want to be a part of the American dream. I still continue to encourage people to self-deport. Go out there and self-deport. When you get home, you will have the opportunity to receive $1,000 from the United States of America. We will pay your way, and you'll get the chance to come back here legally through these programs that we can utilize. And that's what the president wants to see. He recognizes that they're good people, but there needs to be application of the law in this country. That's what he ran on and what he'll deliver.
Are you seeing an increase in that? Because I heard you make that point today as well, Secretary Noam, and I thought, is that part of these operations? Obviously, you want to get these criminals out of the country who you have detainers for. But do you also want to encourage people to be a little bit jarred by this and say, you know what, I'm going to do the app and I'm going to take the $1,000 and I'm going to get out of here?
Well, I want to remind you, Martha, that who's elevating these tensions are these professional violent protesters. People have the right to peacefully protest, but then you have professionals that have been funded by NGOs, some of them by former government grants under Joe Biden. They've used those dollars to train people to come in and commit acts of violence during these peaceful protests. So there's a big difference between peaceful protests and what these professionals are doing. That's what's escalated the tensions. All we've been doing is enforcing the law. And I would tell everybody, if you wait till we arrest you and remove you from the country, you will never get the chance to come back to America. Right. The president's been very clear on that. So self-deport, and then we will help facilitate you coming back here legally and getting the chance to live the American dream.
Are you seeing an acceleration of people taking that option in the course of last week?
We are. I would encourage everybody, download the CBP Home app. Download that app. We will buy your plane ticket. We'll help you get home. When you get there, you'll get $1,000, and we'll facilitate you getting a process to where you can be here and be a part of our future.
Well, I know you talk.
They're buying plane ticket, ladies and gentlemen. So you get a free plane ticket, love. You get a free plane ticket back home. You know what it say? Nothing like home. So you get a free plane ticket back home, ladies and gentlemen. Whew. All right, Gavin Newscomb.
The riots in Southern California and across the country persisted. A curfew seemed to help in downtown Los Angeles a bit last night. However, rioters still attacked police for 6 straight nights, so there were clashes there. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. The feud between President Trump and California's Governor Gavin Newsom is on full blast. Newsom just doesn't get the message that he should be advocating for his people and safety and protecting all these businesses. But we know he's not doing that. He's going after Trump. Today, a federal judge will hear arguments on Newsom's attempt to stop the National Guard from being deployed to Los Angeles as the president did. Necessarily so. Trump is not backing down from that fight.
What we have is a situation in Los Angeles that was caused by gross incompetence. They didn't have the police to handle it. The police were asking us to come in. They were very late. While we were there, we stayed there, and we stopped tremendous destruction and death. We stopped the deaths. We stopped a lot. We are going to have law and order in our country.
Okay, this started as a press against immigration, customs, and enforcement agents out getting illegal aliens, particularly those who had committed the most egregious and violent crimes. So that's how the anti-ICE portion of this chaos started. It has now morphed into things that are violent by some of these rioters, and it's spreading beyond Southern California. So clearly, it's not just ICE agents they hate. They hate the police. They must hate American citizens because they put everybody in danger when they behave like this. And we know that they don't care if they keep people from going to their jobs during the daytime by blocking them. These people are dangerous and thirsty for attention, apparently. In cities large and small across the country, police faced an anti-ICE protest, both peaceful and violent. The mayor of Spokane, Washington, was forced to declare a state of emergency because of all of it, and police arrested some 30 people there. Already across the country, though, there have been hundreds arrested. Since the Los Angeles riots began, it's been 1 week today, so the 7th day we enter now. The nationwide unrest has exploded in that time, and the White House says this will not stop the president from working to protect Americans.
Let this be an unequivocal message to left-wing radicals in other parts of the country who are thinking about copycatting the violence in an effort to stop this administration's mass deportation efforts. You will not succeed. Any lawlessness will only strengthen this president's resolve to defend the majority of Americans who want to live their lives peacefully, free from the fear of violent, criminal, illegal aliens.
Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy is in the East Room, where he will hear from the president. Peter.
We had to pop out to the North Lawn. They said we couldn't do any live shots before the president got there. So here we are. And
so it's not a window. You're on the North Lawn. Good to know.
It's all a green screen.
No.
But now that the driver in California who allegedly dropped off those so-called bionic masks to rioters to use during a riot has been arrested, there are folks here at the top of the chain of command of government who want to know if there are shadowy anti-government folks bankrolling violence.
They're probably paid, many of them, as you know. They're professionals. When you see them chopping up concrete, because the bricks got captured, they're chopping up concrete and they're using that as a weapon. That's pretty bad.
Taking a cue from her boss, the director of national intelligence is already reviewing open source intel.
We've seen, the ads put up on Craigslist offering people thousands of dollars a week to go out and conduct these violent and dangerous riots in the streets of not only Los Angeles, but we saw earlier in Chicago and New York and other cities across the country. And ultimately, again, what the Democrats are advocating for is this continued lawlessness on our streets.
But Democratic lawmakers in California claim it doesn't matter who's paying the protesters, if that's even happening, because they claim this was always the way it was going to turn out, no matter what.
He was planning on this for months. This is something that I believe they were thinking about immediately after the election. He was already considering this. I have a friend who was a DOD employee on the civilian side. They said that this was one of their fears, that they would federalize National Guard, also look for ways to include active duty Marines, which is extremely, extremely dangerous.
We have no evidence of that. President Trump has not said that. He has said that he does not plan to pull the National Guard from California until his team believes it's safe. Harris.
Well, apparently when you're incompetent at your jobs, you need a boogeyman to take the fall. Sounds like that's what Newsom and others are trying to do. Peter Doocy, when you go back inside of the East Room, the president will be there and we'll join you then. Thank you. The Washington Examiner with a new editorial titled, Gavin Newsom's Big Los Angeles Riot Lie. The argument here, Newsom wants to make it appear as if everything was peaceful until Trump ordered the National Guard in. And it asks, how could Trump be responsible for all those cars being burned, tear gas deployed, and rubber bullets shot if it all happened hours before he got involved? It is Newsom and the Democratic Party that are intentionally spreading lies to create fear. Art Del Cueto, Vice President of the Border Patrol Union. Look, Art, you've seen a lot of things in your day. You've patrolled the border. You've seen things get out of hand in different parts of the country. Tell me, what does this look like to you, just at first glance? Was this a movement that was going on before or after Trump? Because they seem to want to argue about that.
Look, when you're seeing what they're doing out there and when, you know, from being in contact with the agents directly, these individuals, they had planned that something like this would happen and they were prepared for it. You know, they have strategic locations where they were going to attack. They knew exactly how they were going to do it, up to breaking pieces of concrete and everything like that. So they knew how they were going to move forward. This was something that, you know, they've been wanting to do. They use this as an excuse, and it's shocking to me. Look, Harris, I was shocked when I would see judges that were allowing illegal aliens out the back doors. I was shocked when you had politicians, you know, going out there against ICE agents for doing their jobs. But now to have a governor say, I'm perfectly comfortable with the chaos in my state, don't bring the National Guard, who would not want more help? His entire state is in chaos.
Look, let me ask you this, because you're talking about the ramp up during the Biden administration to all of this. And I'm just wondering, do we even have enough information about where some of these most violent illegal aliens are to know when they are planning these things? I mean, they're not like terrorists that we would have been watching that are on a terror watch list, are they?
No, they're not. And that's the problem, that during the last 4 years of the Biden administration, we don't know who came into the country. We know the numbers of apprehensions and those that actually directly asked for some type of asylum, but we don't know the number of the gotaways, and you don't know who they were or what their intentions are. But let me say this. Look, when you have these many individuals that are in our country destroying, you know, cities, destroying vehicles, destroying businesses, doing all the issues that they're doing on the main streets, burning and attacking, you know, businesses, attacking law enforcement, all the while, Harris, they're flying foreign flags. That is, to me, a terrorist act. That's an invasion, and these individuals should be arrested for domestic terrorism if they're not from this country. If they're not from this country, they need to be deported. But the bottom line is, we need to see some arrests. It started as an immigration issue, but now when they're attacking law enforcement, it's no longer an immigration issue. It is lawlessness, and they all need to be arrested. They need to face consequences and jail time.
Look, the Department of Homeland Security is highlighting the worst of the worst that ICE agents have arrested in Los Angeles raids so far. So while this is going on, this is pulling some of these people into the public. So ICE can go get them now because they've come out of the shadows. They're doing damage when they come out, but at least we know that they're there and we can pick them up. The list includes illegal aliens convicted of murder, sex crimes against children, human trafficking, just on the short list. The New York Post cover with, "This is who they protest for," with a picture of an illegal immigrant who was arrested for hurling a Molotov cocktail at police officers. So I refuse to believe that they didn't get some help in some of this, right? We've looked at where did the money flow from, but the organization of it too. Are the cartels involved? I mean, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, they need to just continue to make their arrests and see if they can, you know, get some intel off of the individuals that they're arresting. But you're absolutely right. This started as a targeted enforcement for a lot of these individuals that had committed serious crimes, and they had them on the list. But when they went out to detain them, they happened to be living or you know, residing and being around other individuals that were also in the country illegally. You can't ignore that. You have to arrest them. Those are also criminals. Also, when you start seeing the individuals that are being arrested at some of these factories, some people have downplayed it and said, said, oh, well, are you really going after dangerous criminals? I remind people, when you're in the country illegally, that's a crime. When you're in the country and using somebody else's identification, that's also a crime. That's called identity theft. So, yes, I think, ICE is doing the right thing. Border Patrol is doing the right thing. And we need to see some arrests from these individuals that are attacking law enforcement. And we need to see real consequences because, as you said, it's not just in Los Angeles. It's spreading to other parts of the country. The ICE facility in Tucson got attacked last night, and several of their windows were destroyed. And some of the agents were also attacked down here, too.
I'm sorry to hear that for those agents. My goodness. And that's an important corridor because up Nogales through Tucson, you and I have talked about this because that's our home state. That's where a lot of the fentanyl was coming through across the border. All right, let's move to this. This is something live going on. I can't wait to get you to speak on it. Right now, 3 Democratic governors, J.B. Pritzker, Tim Walz, and Kathy Hochul of here in New York, you know her. They're all trying to defend their state's sanctuary policies before the House Oversight Committee. We have already seen some fireworks from Chairman James Comer. Let's watch.
Let me be clear. Sanctuary policies do not protect Americans. They protect criminal, illegal aliens. Minnesota Governor Walz stood at a commencement podium and smeared ICE agents as, quote, Trump modern-day Gestapo. Governor Hochul's sanctuary policies cost taxpayers billions. Governor Pritzker faces lawsuits for obstructing ICE as he turns cities like Chicago into havens for drugs and crime. These governors handcuff law enforcement from doing their jobs, harbor predators, and call it compassion. It's costing lives, hurting Americans, and draining taxpayer money.
All right, we want to go there live now. Governor Walz is facing Congressman Tom Emmer right now. Let's watch.
Refused to work with law enforcement to enforce the law. In May 2020, looting, acts of violence, and arson occurred on your watch in Minneapolis after you refused to bring in the National Guard. Governor, your agenda is clear. Free health care, free college and driver's licenses for illegals while handcuffing law enforcement when they're trying to protect our citizens and their communities. If you think that's not a sanctuary state, you shouldn't be governor. By turning Minnesota into a magnet for illegals, you have opened up our communities to dangerous criminals, including known terrorists, gang members, murderers, and child predators. You have sent a resounding message that if you're a hardworking, law-abiding citizen of Minnesota, your safety and well-being are not the priorities of Tim Walz and his administration. But if you're coming to our state illegally, you're not only welcome with open arms, you're entitled to free stuff on the taxpayer's dime. This is absolutely disgraceful. Governor Walz, your sanctuary state agenda has been defined by your utter failure. You have failed to enforce the rule of law. You have failed to uphold our national sovereignty. And most importantly, you have failed the people of Minnesota. The time for radical sanctuary state policy, sir, is over. The voters made that clear last November when they elected President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. You remember him, don't you? Governor, the time for real leaders and real leadership is now. And with that, sir, actually, Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to introduce into the record the governor's tweet that I referenced from May 23rd, 2018, which makes it clear his hatred for federal law.
Tim Walz, tampon Tim is always looking like he's confused. Look at his face.
Law enforcement. Thank you.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Chair recognizes Mr. Mfume.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I have a unanimous consent request, and I'd like to present both of those to you at the same time.
Proceed.
Okay. I ask unanimous consent that we enter into the record an article from The Hill of...
Okay, we want to just come back for a moment. Congressman Tom Emmer there from Tim Walz's home state, so you know they know each other, and the politics were on fire right then. Emmer is the House Republican whip, and he read the riot act to Tim Walz about his policies as governor of that state. I want to bring in Art Del Cueto one more time. Art, look, the battle is mighty right now to protect the nation from what we lived through. Millions of people entering illegally into this country. And to do that, you have to go after these sanctuary states and cities. Your reaction to what we just saw?
Well, first and foremost, I'm disgusted by politicians that continue to, categorize and compare law enforcement and Border Patrol agents and IG agents to the Gestapo. That just makes my blood boil, I can tell you right now. Those are my heroes. Why doesn't he come down here and see exactly what they're doing and what they've been doing for several years, putting their lives on the line, getting attacked by cartels and criminals, and he's going to go up there and all he cares about is creating this magnet, because that's what he's doing. He's creating a magnet for more criminals to come into the United States. He's creating a magnet for more attacks on law enforcement. That's the individual it makes my blood boil, Harris, when I hear individuals say something like that. Why doesn't he put out his address and home all these individuals that are coming across? Why doesn't he put them up in his home? That's the thing. They're quick to go up there on their soapbox and say, I'm the caring person. I'm the one that cares, when all the while they're bringing up policies that destroy American values and they destroy American lives. That's all it does. Sanctuary cities, sanctuary policies are nothing but a magnet for criminal behavior.
Look, I understand now why people say, and I say it too, I should shout it, the American people know what they're doing when they vote. They get this. November 5th, that guy would have been the vice president of the United States. That guy that you just described, and all of those failed policies and how they would have pushed us even further into a crisis, immigration crisis, Americans voted in part on that issue. It was important to them, and they got it right. Art Del Cueto, thank you very much.
Just imagine Tampon team right now being the vice president of the United States and Kamala Harris being the president, the commander-in-chief. Kamala Harris. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you. We dodged a bullet. Here we go.
Of anti-ICE protests breaking out in Los Angeles and other major cities, including the one we're in.
Massive crowds seen fighting back against law enforcement in cities like LA, Seattle, New York, Las Vegas, just to name a few.
Jonathan Hunt is live in LA with the very latest this morning. Jonathan.
Ainsley, Lawrence, Brian, good morning to you all. We are still 2 hours away from a second night of curfew ending here in LA. And clearly these protests have been picking up right across the country now. They may have started here, but looking west to east, we saw protests last night in Seattle, in Las Vegas, in San Antonio, Texas, and of course in New York City. If there is any good news to all of that, it's that law enforcement in all of those cities appeared to have a good handle on the protests, none of which really got out of hand in the way that we have seen some of the protests here in LA. As for LA itself, the main focus last night of the protesters appeared to be City Hall. The LA Sheriff's Department, obviously, the sheriff himself headquartered there, and the LA Sheriff's Department led the effort to push the protesters away from City Hall through the evening. Police on horseback also came in with their nightsticks drawn. Those tactics appeared to be effective too in driving what was a much smaller crowd than we've seen on previous days away. And then by the time we got to 8 p.m. local time last night, as you can see from these aerial shots, the crowds had thinned out remarkably. That's the 8, of course, was the start of the curfew. The last few remaining stragglers were pushed out by law enforcement, and ultimately it was a relatively quiet night. Meantime, officials here warn once again that they will track down anyone involved in any acts of violence against law enforcement officers or indeed against property here in LA. Here's the LA County DA, Nathan Hochman.
Let me provide some bad news for you. There's a tremendous amount of video out there through social media and otherwise. We will know who you are, who engaged in this conduct. We will track you down, we will arrest you, we will prosecute you, and we will punish you. Okay. So, for people who've already engaged in this illegal activity, we're coming for you.
Bad. Now, up in San Francisco today, in a courtroom up there, Governor Gavin Newsom will be presenting his case, asking that the National Guard troops federalized by President Trump be put back under his command. The DOJ has described that action by Governor Newsom, that legal action, as, quote, a crass political stunt endangering American lives. But that side of this drama will play out in a courtroom in San Francisco this afternoon. Lawrence, Ainsley, Brian, back to you.
All right. Thanks so much, Jonathan. So he goes from curfew to curfew. I mean, the sun went down. That's when people are supposed to go home. As soon as you're out past the curfew, you're in danger of being detained.
This argument that Gavin Newsom is making that he wants it to be back in his command, I think it's just juvenile. You didn't show up when the people needed you, and there's crisis after crisis to show for it. I mean, we got the big wall right here. What was he doing COVID? He was at the French Laundry having a good time. Meanwhile, he closed all the schools for K through 12. It impacted 6 million of our kids. The homeless crisis, they lead the nation in the homeless population, yet they also give the homeless population the most funding, and they still have the most there. You got the wildfire response, bad leadership, blamed the poor water management, delays on misplaced priorities. Then the state budget, we just gave them $7 billion for that high-speed rail. Well, they've never even laid a foot of track.
And it doesn't go from San Francisco to, it doesn't.
He can't even handle this stuff.
An epic fail.
It's way over. But I would add something else to him. He says there's San Bernardino fires, and I need my National Guard to go to it, but they are stuck right now in Los Angeles.
Blaming Trump.
Argument, blaming Trump for that. But I just don't think he has a constitutional argument that I have seen that would have him trump and take the National Guard back.
This is what actor Jon Voight shared on social media.
You're a fool blaming Trump. What are you doing for this destruction of these animals destroying Los Angeles? Are you there talking calmly with them, you fool? They would burn you down like they're burning the cars and the American flag with no regard for humanity. This is not about Trump. This is about protecting the people from these animals and criminals trying to destroy us. And our police force, are they supposed to stand there, let rocks hit them and kill them? Who's going to save them? You? You're a disgrace. You're nothing but a lying dog for the hopes of becoming the president one day.
Oh, man.
This Glendale Community College professor sent out an email encouraging all the students to riot too. Kim Kardashian put on Instagram, when we're told that ICE exists to keep our country safe and remove criminals, great. But when we witness innocent, hardworking people being ripped from their families, we have to speak up. And then Trish McLaughlin answers, Kim Kardashian.
Wait, did they just say Kim Kardashian?
Which one of these convicted child molesters, murderers, drug traffickers, and rapists would you like to stay in the country?
Exactly.
There are just a few of the convicted illegals who have been picked up in the last 72 hours.
ICE highlighted some of these criminals: homicide, burglary, drug activity, battery, lewd acts with children, assault, money laundering, human smuggling, burglary. Then there's this illegal migrant that we've been talking about this morning who was arrested. He had already been deported once. He was arrested twice last year for a DUI and for theft. He was on the loose because of the sanctuary city laws in California. He was ignored by the cops because the laws protect the criminals in California.
So 2 things on this. Kim K, I know you don't know this because you didn't go to a real law school, but what about the American families that had their daughters ripped away from their families? Yeah. Every single month that we were reporting of an illegal killing some American citizen. And number 2, so if we're going to allow this to happen when illegal criminals, when the ICE officers show up with a warrant for their arrest, do Americans now not have to abide by warrants when the cops show up? Right. Can they barricade them? Can their families create a barricade outside? Should there be protests when they don't want to go to jail, when a warrant is shown up? It's a dangerous precedent to set, to say that you don't have to comply with court orders.
In terms of the idiot parade, how about adding Katy Perry to it? She writes on Instagram, this was once Mexican land, and the people being targeted today are often descendants of those who lived here for future generations. Do we really want to go back to the Incas and find out who was here? Would you like to give up parts of Texas? Do you want to give up part of California? I mean, what is wrong with you? They're upset that their butlers and their landscapers might have to go back to the country where they're from.
I was saying this in the first hour, talked to a lady, she's an American citizen now, but she's originally from Brazil. She said, if these riots happen in Brazil and people started waving flags from other countries and burning the Brazilian flag, they would end up in some back alley. We don't stand for that, she said, in Brazil.
It's disgusting.
I'm Steve Drew. And that's why,
Jonathan, good evening.
That's why they're here, because this is the land of the free. Okay, this is why people come to the United States, for better opportunities. All right. But you cannot come to the United States illegally. You cross the border illegally, but when you get here, you ask for due process. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Let's begin right now with Fox News contributor Brett Velikovich. He joins us now. And Brett, I know Carly has prepared extensively for this segment, so I'm going to let her take it from here.
That's right. Yeah, good morning, Brett. So we want to talk to you about drones because we just showed some LA riot footage where it was a drone that was displaying that footage, called a Predator drone. And not surprisingly, the people who are supporting these riots are saying those drones usually fly during military combat. Now they're flying over LA riots. How dare they fly on U.S. soil? So what is your reaction to that criticism?
Oh, man.
Well, hey, first, good morning, and thanks for having me on the show again. It's great to see you guys. And look, these are not armed drones with Hellfire missiles that are launching off of them or ready to fire at protesters. So don't worry. They're really there to provide this sort of insight into criminal activity, capture footage of protests, feed intel to the local authorities. You have these large, massive groups of people popping up in areas around LA quickly, and that's something that law enforcement needs to get ahead of. And CBP, Customs Border Protection, they've had this fleet of unarmed drones for quite some time. Typically they're flying along the southern border of Mexico looking for drug cartel activity. They're used for more high-profile operations, but every once in a while they get tasked for domestic operations. And these things, they sit very, very high, typically 20,000 feet above ground, and they can see a lot of terrain that way and cover a lot of space. And so, it may be concerning for some Americans, but this is perfectly legal for them to fly over the airspace, especially when it comes to the fact now that the National Guard has been deployed. They have military assets like this that they can task out to support their operation. And that's really part of deploying the National Guard when it's activated by the president. It's not just about the individual soldiers, it's the resources, it's the surveillance assets, it's the intelligence, and it's this full support structure that comes along the way. So this is really a good thing for everyone's protection.
Yeah, and President Trump did a podcast with Miranda Devine of the New York Post. She's got a brand new podcast out, and she asked him about drone warfare and the fact that our adversaries have ramped up drone warfare in recent years. And she asked him how we can combat that, and he said, well, we just buy more drones than they do, which is a pretty succinct answer. And he did just sign an executive order to cut red tape regarding drones to increase and ramp up our creation of them, which sounds like a pretty good idea in this moment.
You're exactly right. I think that our defense industrial base has just been behind the power curve when it comes to advancing drone technology. We used to literally rule the skies, especially as it came to our use of drones against Al-Qaeda and ISIS, but we've really lost the bubble in China and Iran and Russia. They've all developed these drones at an alarming rate. And so it's great that the president issued this new executive order. That's big news for the U.S. drone industry. It's again, putting America first because it's focused on putting money into our domestic drone manufacturers. Right now, China is just building drones, in the hundreds of thousands per month. And we just haven't been able to do that because of these bureaucracy and these archaic laws. Yeah. And frankly, we need it. There is a drone technology arms race that's occurring. And the defense industry is broken, and drones are simply the future of warfare. Look, in Russia and Ukraine, 70% of all strikes on the front lines today are done by drone technology. And so it's always going to be the future of warfare, and we've got to get ahead of it.
Yeah, and speaking of getting ahead of it and drone innovation, Brett, the U.S. Army just rolled out smart rifle scopes that have auto-target to take down enemy drones in combat. What can you tell us about that?
I mean, it's pretty cool.
I don't get it. I just don't get it when you tell the enemy what you have. But I guess it's just all smoke screen because there's no way this right here is facts. There is no way you could be telling your enemies what you have in stock. Is impossible. Okay. Trump always says this. Trump would say, I'm not going to tell you what I'm saying to China or what I'm going to do to North Korea or Russia. Of course. So all of this is just smokescreen because there's no way you're here on national TV telling China, telling Russia what we have in stock. Impossible. Okay.
When you think about it, there's some stuff straight out of Call of Duty, but the anti-drone technology industry, it's right there with the importance of offensive technology. You got to counter these things. And, right now the industry is coming up with all kinds of solutions for the growing drone problem. In this case, they've got what's called this Smash 2000, which is a special scope that fits on a standard rifle, a standard Army rifle, and it literally uses cameras, sensors, artificial intelligence to track the targets, and it decides the perfect time to fire that gun. So you've got, once that drone is locked in that scope, the system literally controls the trigger and only fires when this hit is guaranteed. So look, the jury's still out on whether it's going to work, but I think we're in the right place right now. We're where we want to be, and we should continue to develop stuff like this constantly.
Brett, thank you so much for hopping on with us this morning. It is a fascinating topic, and we appreciate your expertise on it.
Alrighty. We're going to check out the Commander-in-Chief and his awesome First Lady that made a speech today at the White House, at the South Lawn, and that's where they do every public visit to the White House. Here we go. Here we go. All right now.
Well, thank you very much. This is a beautiful day. It's a little warm, but that's the way we like it. And this is beautiful Republicans and beautiful Democrats. We have them both. And it's nice to mention them in the same breath, frankly. And I'm delighted to welcome all of the members of the House and Senate and your beautiful families. A great honor to have you at the White House, and to the annual White House Congressional Picnic. A long time it's been going on. I want to thank our magnificent First Lady for putting together this wonderful evening. There are too many friends, frankly, to mention all of them. We have so many of our congressmen, and we have some senators in here. I have to tell you, they snuck in, but that's okay. They wanted to be here. But I just want to thank all of you, and I want to, in particular, thank Speaker Mike Johnson. He's doing an incredible job. And all of our other colleagues on both sides of the aisle for your service to America. That's what it is. It's service to America. For more than half a century, the White House Congressional Picnic has served as a special night for Republicans and Democrats to put politics aside, if that's possible. Is that possible? I think so, right? For at least about an hour, and come together with our families and give thanks and privilege to all of those people. And I want to really, in particular, thank all of the people that so beautifully serve our country. And that's exactly what you're doing. Everyone here works incredibly hard, and your loved ones, they make just these tremendous sacrifices, enormous sacrifices, frankly. And I want to thank you all. The exceptional dedication to our country is unparalleled. We're gathered at a truly exciting time for our nation. The USA is now the hottest country in the world. They just came back from the Middle East, and the King of Saudi Arabia and Qatar. We have a great leader of Qatar, as you probably know, and UAE, all leaders, great leaders, frankly, and they all said the same thing. They started off, they said, America is the hottest country anywhere in the world, and it is. And if you think about it, 7 or 8 months ago, we were cold as ice. We weren't hot. We were a laughing stock, and now we're hot as can be. They all respect us. We actually came home, you'll be happy to hear, $5.1 trillion we brought back with us from the Middle East. So that's an all-time record by far. But the USA is now really on a path that's, I believe, unparalleled. Trillions of dollars of investment are pouring in. Incomes are soaring. Grocery prices are way down. Gasoline prices are way down. Energy prices are down. Mortgage rates are down. And inflation is down. Other than that, how are you doing, right? They've been talking to me, do you think you can get the prices down? We did it, every single one of them. And last month, we cut the trade deficit. You saw that 2 days ago. It was just announced. The trade deficit was cut in exactly half. And that was all done in a period of 4 months. So we've reduced the number of illegal border crosses, and you know that because you look at the numbers, and 99.999%. Last month, it was 3 people got across, 3. So I did a good job in 2016, but we did an even better job right now, and it's been amazing. We have to get a little cooperation for some people, but A lot of bad people were let into our country. We're getting them out, and we're getting them out fast, and I think you know that. They came from jails, prisons. They came from mental institutions, gang members. We're getting them out very fast. You're going to be very happy when you see the results. The recent months, we've even come together as a bipartisan basis and on a bipartisan basis with the help of our great First Lady to pass the Take It Down Act, protecting our youth from exploitation. And I want to thank you, Melania, and thank you, everybody out there. When I saw that bill pass bipartisan, I said, you know, I think you're going to take my job, Melania. You'll get a little We don't get so much bipartisan. So she didn't know why. She said, why is that? I said, there is no reason for it, but you did it. Congratulations. That's a great job. But as a result of these many other historic wins for the American people, a majority of Americans now believe our country is on the right track for the first time in over 28 years, according to a very prestigious poll. 28 years it has not been. And this is the first time in 28 years, and it'll only get better when the Senate passes the one big, beautiful bill and Congress sends it to my desk on the 4th of July. We're shooting for the 4th of July. I think it's going to be the most important piece of legislation that our country has passed in many, many years. On Saturday, we're coming together to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States Army with a grand parade, a military parade that I don't think we've ever seen the likes of what you're going to see. I hope the weather's okay, but actually, if it's not, that brings you good luck. And that's okay, too. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the tanks at all. It doesn't affect the soldiers. They're used to it. They're tough, smart. Next year, when we're all together again, we will be celebrating the 250th anniversary of the American founding. We founded our country. They founded our great people, our great past founders have done a fantastic job, and we'll be cheering on Team USA in the World Cup. So we have the World Cup coming, we have the Olympics coming, and maybe most importantly, we're going to celebrate a whole year, 250th anniversary. You know, the Army is exactly 1 year older than the country. So that was interesting. We did a speech yesterday at Fort Bragg, and it was really something, the display that they put on. I truly believe the great times are ahead for America. So once again, I want to thank all of you. I want to thank every single person in this group, Democrat, Republican, or a couple of independents out there. They say they're independent, but they're not that independent. But I want to thank everybody in the audience for being very special. I know every one of you, and some by reputation and some by just knowing them. And you're fantastic people, and you have great families. And without the families, it wouldn't work for you at all. So I just want to thank you very much for being here. Have a great night. We're going to have plenty of fun. Have a really fantastic night. And nobody's going to be cold tonight. You're going to be very warm tonight because it's a little on the hot side. But just enjoy yourself. And again, really happy birthday to a truly great country. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being here, ladies and gentlemen. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. It is currently 3:14 a.m. And of course, today's date is the 13th of June, 2025. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. And believe in Almighty God. All right. Shout out to the fathers out there doing their best. I get it. You got to work hard. You got to pay the bills. You don't get enough rest. Yes, I know, but you still got to show up for your kids. Okay, there's nothing like a father in the home. Now, shout out to the mothers as well. Okay, they've been doing a great job for generations. All right. All right. Shout out to the veterans. Shout out to the military members. You guys are awesome. You protect the homeland. God bless you. Thank you for your service. Shout out to the law enforcement officers. Thank you so much for the duty that you have to the American people. Thank you for your service as well. And shout out to Ice Baby. Shout out to Ice Baby. All right. Now, with that being said, I got to say a big shout out to our esteemed members of the channel. Dr. Luke, the GOAT, God bless you for being here. Thank you. Shout out to Ellie, God bless you. Shout out to Ringmaster. Shout out to Sandra Logue, God bless you. All right, to our awesome, hard-working moderators, C. Shelley. Shout out to the amazing C. Shelley, God bless you. Shout out to the Bucket Master, the Bucket Master, the Liberal Tears Bucket Master, Mr. Booski, God bless you. And shout out to the beautiful, the gorgeous, the awesome, the godmother of this channel, Dana. God bless you, Dana. Thank you for being here tonight. Who else, man? Who else? Corey B. Corey B is like the runaway soldier. He ran away, but he's back home. Shout out to Corey B. God bless you. Who else? Shout out to Michael Krieger. Michael, I got you in my heart, and I'm gonna say a prayer for you for your, I guess, the litigation that you have with your family over your kid. God is the greatest, and God got you. All right. Now, with that being said, shout out to the viewers. Someone like Jet. God bless you, Jet. Man, God bless everybody, man. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Rain promo. I've seen you here for like 3 days consecutively. So thank you so much for being here. Holy says good coverage. God bless you. Yeah, man, that's what we do here. We love the United States. I believe the United States is the greatest country on earth. Yes, I get it. Some people don't think so, but this is my opinion, and I have a right to say my opinion. So this is what I believe. The United States is the greatest country on the face of the earth. If you need some tears, nope. If you need some bucket for your tears, then you can hit up the Bucket Master if you don't agree with my statement. All right. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you. Stay strong. Life is hard. Never give up. Never back down. Just like the Commander in Chief. I love you guys. It is your boy Genesis, and I am signing out.